here with Scatman John in front of a hammer and sickle background.
Shout outs to the Facebook group Communists for Scatman John, where I found the background image that I'm using as my virtual background right now.
But also, we have the Zen Archer, Corey himself.
Hello.
I put himself in the wrong place in that sentence, but...
Yep, everyone's favorite urban planner back to talk about video games again.
Here to talk about the spirits within yet again.
I'm going to talk about video games and no one can stop me.
We brought our favorite urban planner on to talk about the end of a chapter and a whole chapter in which there are no cities and only vegetation. So,
but there are pathways to cities that we are discussing here, which is an important part of urban planning, I assume.
If you think of transportation as just moving from one place to another place, then technically that we are transporting ourselves.
That's fair. Also, this is the Every FNFF podcast. Okay, bye.
I'm also wearing a shirt that Alex made for me, and literally 3 or 4 people commented on it today, and so excellent work.
That's right.
It is pretty offensive. I'm not gonna lie. It's great.
For the listeners, this is a shirt that it's the SEPTA logo, which is like Philadelphia's like transit agency, but it says MTA. And Alex made the inverse of it too, like the New York City MTA logo, but it says SEPTA, which I actually like a lot more because it's a more recognizable logo. And it's just a shirt that's designed to be ignored by literally 90% of the population and really piss off the remaining 10%.
This is the best kind of shirt.
My Doctor Who Rick and Morty shirt gets all the greatest reactions, so why not combine 2 other things I love?
That reminds me of famous rivalry between Philadelphia and New York is the Philadelphia Flyers, go Flyers, and the New Jersey. Yeah, fuck it. They might as well be in New Jersey, frankly. The New York Rangers, fuck the Rangers. But a while there was the classic Rangers logo, but instead of saying New York Rangers, it said Broad Street Bullies in Philadelphia. And I remember walking into the stadium one time to see a Flyers game, and someone was wearing that, and I'm like, this motherfucker is gonna get his ass kicked by accident. And be like, no, I'm actually a Flyers fan. Like, fuck the Rangers. I'm like, that's brave.
I had a friend from New Hampshire, and for those that don't know, New Hampshire looks almost identical to Vermont. It's just like inverted, like they're almost kind of inverses of each other. And so he had a shirt that had a silhouette of New Hampshire on it with a big X through it, and it said "fuck Vermont." It's just designed to trigger New Hampshire people.
So what I'm to understand from this conversation is that New Hampshire is just punished Vermont.
New Hampshire is the New Jersey of the New England.
Everyone's got one.
New Hampshire is just Vermont with an eye patch on.
We've effectively pissed off probably a good bit of the listenership now by just talking trash on various parts of the country that aren't Philadelphia.
Well, you know what? We can do that because we are the worst.
Yeah, true. We're Philadelphia's finest, which means Philadelphia is not really...
We once lived in a glass house, but we have shattered every pane by throwing bricks.
Living in a broken glass house definitely describes Philadelphia. Well, I mean, I posted recently in the Discord that I was traversing the accursed lands, and I had a photo of the Philly skyline, and I was not exaggerating.
It's your job to clean up those streets, dude. Not in the fash sense of, like more brutality, but in the sense of making it more traversable.
We're gonna defund the police and refund sanitation.
They call people from Philly Phil C's, and the people of Pulse are terrified.
Well, speaking of fashion sense, as Carl said, it was Lightning's birthday last week.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was also Final Fantasy VII's birthday a couple days ago.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. I'm here to tell you that I have been branded an enemy of the state, and also I'm marrying that guy you hate.
Yeah, Lightning's coming out party. No, wait, Lightning's birthday party and Sarah's
let's be real.
Coming out /
Lightning is coded in a very particular way in this game.
Sarah seems to really like making things about herself.
It's true.
So far.
Yeah,
Sarah's very selfish.
I've become a lessee. Oh, it's always about you, isn't it?
Let's do all the things that you want to do.
Oh, now you want to destroy Pulse. Fine. I guess we'll do what you want to do again. So anyway, we're at the end of the bio jungle section.
We just had a flashback, and Lightning was all like, I should have listened to Sarah to herself.
Yeah.
We start seeing some of the feral enemies now up on the upper levels with us now that we've been introduced to them.
Yeah,
I guess because we turned the elevators on and we opened up all those gates. Or maybe actually that's not how they work. They said that they react to when there's enemies.
Yeah, they react to their their bioelectricity or whatever. Their bio readings.
Whatever. They probably just hopped up one of the leaves like we did.
I enjoy how the game like feels obligated to acknowledge like that there's new enemy types and have some lore explanation for why. You guys were talking last week about the wilderness guard or whatever, and it's like they have to invent like a new military group just to explain why there's a different color guy in a tight onesie now. I've been thinking a lot about like people. I shied away from this game when I was younger because I kept hearing this criticism of being really linear. And I'm starting to see like why people saw it that way, because this stage of the game, it really is like a kill tunnel. You know, you're kind of just like running and having an encounter and then running and having an encounter again with cutscenes in between. And it's like, I can definitely see how people it can get really tiring if you're not really into the vibe.
Yeah.
It's a visual novel.
It kind of is.
Yeah, and I think it also didn't really do a whole lot of favors when it came out, and has led to a lot of the discussion around it where all of the story is just completely buried. Like, great for a podcast because we can just do all the work and read into it and explain things a little more. Yeah, we fucking love conjecture on this. Like, we just love to like guess what's going on.
Us?
Is the story really that buried though? Like, I feel like it's a pretty straightforward story.
I think there was like multiple parts where there's like the actual like setting storytelling, like the world buildings, like and then there's the actual story, what the story of the game is about is like also becoming revealed at the same time. So there's layers where like, okay, what is this thing they're referring to? Everyone else seems to know. And then there's like, okay, where these characters are hiding from each other, not just like hiding from the player.
It's not as buried as like Dark Souls or something, but it's also not in the shadow of Dark Souls, where that's something that people will be like, oh yeah, I'm into that. If you just explain it like, oh, it's like Dark Souls, not in the difficulty sense, but in the storytelling sense.
Yeah.
People might be more comfortable with like consuming it that way.
There's also like, I'll go ahead and drop a few names that will mean nothing even when we beat this game. But there's things like the fell worm Lindsay and the goddess Etro and shit like that explains how this world came to be the way that it is, that we'll never know. No one will ever say, and we'll only hear about it in like Alex translating Latin from Odin's shield and stuff like that. In that like, there is a tale that this game has nothing to do with really, but defines why the characters are here. So like, there is some stuff that is buried feet down.
I think that's just like, maybe it just goes to show because they've made a few games in this world that they were trying to like kind of lay the groundwork for a mythos that they like, okay, we'll touch on a little bit, but we don't want to like blow our load and try to uncover everything in one game. We'll come back to that and like, but they were thinking about it. They probably like had a Bible of like the Nova Fabula
Nova Crystallis,
yeah, whatever.
I love Crystallis for the NES.
At the risk of reaching too much, I'm going to drop my first hot take of the night, which is that I think that the like feeling of frustration at being corralled into kind of a linear path has thematic implications with the story of these characters who have been branded against their will, and they're being funneled down this series of events that they have no control over, and they wish they could go somewhere else, but they can't. Like, there's something to the kind of like the ludonarrative cohesion, of like having the mechanics of the game reinforce this feeling of being trapped and being funneled forward, towards increasing difficulty, right?
I think there's actually a moment in the game much later that ties that concept in and almost makes it like, so that is definitely the case. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's more than just like a thing that we might sense and be like, oh, that's interesting. There's a point where we reach what I would call, it's literally the end of the road in a literal and figurative sense. And they kind of spell it out for you in some ways. It's very interesting, but we'll get there when we get there.
That's when you fight the motorcycle boss, right? And you climb down the rope and you pick your party and you go to Calm.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, you skip Calm now. You don't have to do it.
Oh, that's great.
Depending on which version of the game you play. If you're playing the remake, then it just, becomes a whole different thing.
Anyway, so I would say that we've pretty well explained this area, right? And there's various sets of feral enemies that we can see now on the upper levels. We take some elevators, and basically we're on our way out, right? We finally get up to where the exit is imminent. We're almost there.
But on our way out, we start seeing soldiers, but first we see some dead ones. Like, oh shit, something's not us. Got to them before.
Hope's about to like touch one of the corpses, and like Lightning like pushes him and is like, "Don't touch it. You need to like kill that part of you that recognizes them as people. Like, as long as you still feel that way, you're not going to be able to get through this. Like, you need to kill that part of you."
Lightning grabs Hope's wrist and pulls him away and looks him dead in the face and says, "Dehumanize yourself and face to bloodshed."
It's interesting. Does she grab his wrist? Because that's where his pulse brand is.
No, she just fucking pushes him, I'm pretty sure.
She pushes
It's
him.
very interesting, right? Because like Lightning is also trying to learn how to be a mentor, and she found a way to motivate him by saying like, "Oh, you have to focus on your end goal," right? But like, I don't know what the English says, but in the Japanese, like she actually is like, "Oh, was that too much at once?" is what she says after he like he doesn't understand when she's like, "You have to harden yourself. You have to like cut out, your feelings of empathy." Because like, it's kind of a lot to tell a little kid. Like, don't have, like, just, it's like, no, it's like that line from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when Frank is telling Dee how to lift weights. And he's like, "You want to just jerk it up and then yank it over your head and hyperextend your limbs." And she's just like, "None of that sounds right." It's just like, maybe.
It is kind of weird though. Like, Hope is like, "These aren't people." And then like Lightning's telling him, "Get rid of all of your humanity. That's the only way you're going to survive." Like, we're basically becoming more ammo-like.
Well, I mean, the arbitrary definition of humanity is a huge theme in this game, right? Like, just because you got branded a l'Cie, now you're not a person anymore, even though you feel exactly the same, right? So that idea of like...
Except for the whole focus thing.
Except for the whole can use magic and whatnot now.
Really?
Actually, and we'll get, I mean, depending on how far we get today, we'll get into a little bit more of how arbitrary that can be, becoming a l'Cie. Just depending on the circumstances of becoming a l'Cie, you're either non-human or maybe a hero.
Yeah, it's like, we keep hearing a lot about the pulse l'Cie.
Yeah.
But also, like what Lightning is helping Hope do is to redefine his reality, right? She's saying to him, like, if you allow these other perspectives to come into your head, it will paralyze you. Everything will fall apart. You have to cut out any distraction and focus on your goal and keep moving forward. And like, by basically redefining your own worldview, you can create, a new reality for yourself, which is kind of what's been happening to these characters, right? Like, they don't feel like they're supposed to be like pulse anything, right? They grew up on Cocoon, but everyone else is treating them like they're suddenly these monsters. And that's creating a reality for them that like they're ending up killing Cocoon soldiers because they're being attacked by Cocoon soldiers. And like, there's like this idea of like these narratives and these worldviews that, that they're arbitrary, but also they're very real, and that's kind of what they're exploring here, I think.
It is also kind of piggybacking off of like when Sazh and Lightning were on the Sky Bridge talking about like just nameless goons or whatever. He picked up a gun, he wasn't very good at it or whatever, and now he's dead.
Yeah, I forget.
Simultaneously dehumanizing and humanizing. Well, humans are fragile, whatever. He made the wrong choice.
They come out right out the gate with that. Like, I think in the Japanese, Sazh says, and you're a soldier, so what does that mean? Someone says shoot and you kill? And she doesn't respond. He's like, "Oh, you're just going to ignore me." But like, right, like they're already bringing up the idea that soldiers automatically have to dehumanize their enemies.
Yeah.
I find it extremely funny that Lightning, when he goes to touch the soldier, she just pushes him hard and she's like, "Don't touch him." And the next thing she says in the English is just, "You have to control your emotions." It's like, what? By fucking pushing someone and yelling at them? Like, "Oh, I'm calmer than you are." Yeah, waving the fucking gun around. I'm calmer than you are. Like,
how can I explain? Think of it like a strategy. Focus on your ultimate goal and shut out everything else. Still your mind. Move on instinct. Let doubt take over, and despair will cripple you.
And then, Hope is like internalizing. It's like, all right, strategy, good. I'll take anything to help me get through this. And this is after he takes out, I think, the knife and just kind of like ponders the knife as he's been doing through this area.
Whomst amongst us does not ponder the knife?
Very Full Metal Jacket-y.
But so after this scene, basically we fight through a couple more battles, and then we get to our boss battle at the end of this area, right?
You know, there is something important that Hope says at the end
God
of this
damn it!
conversation.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, we can just skip past
no,
it. It's
no,
just, you know.
I'm so bad at it. I always skip things.
If we skipped this, I'm sure people would be very pissed because it's actually a good little bit of lore here where he talks about how he's coming up with his own plan, and he's like, okay, this is like, I'm gonna do my own thing, and I have this idea in mind, and I'm gonna call it Operation Nora.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we know the name Nora if we're playing on the English version, apparently, already. But Lightning's just like, Nora? Why are you calling it Nora? And he says, that's my mother's name, which is an interesting thing.
Big twist. Fucking
Big tough mom is named Nora.
Same as Snow's stupid gang. Incredible.
Yeah, is this where Lightning explains where Nora, like the term Nora comes from for Snow?
I think that was last
We get that
episode.
one,
I
yeah.
think we mentioned that before they go through the bulkhead, because you mentioned that it was a in Japanese. I mentioned it's like short for Nora Neko.
Yeah.
Which in the Japanese script, she actually explains it too. I think, right, where she's like, "Oh, yeah, like stray cats," as opposed to like the chain dogs.
Which is, it's kind of got even more of a pun when Hope says Operation Nora, right? Because he's a stray now, like. So there's like more layers on top of it, like Operation Nora is like a way to keep this like lost kitten moving forward, like, I don't know. There's so like they're getting a lot out of this little pun. Yeah.
Oh, actually, you know what? I am glad we didn't jump on from this scene, because one of my favorite parts is in the very next thing in this scene.
Yeah.
Lightning obviously knows kind of what's going on, his obsession with Snow.
She knows a bloodthirst when she sees one, and that's all Hope has.
Yeah.
She's like, I too want to kick his ass, but...
And Hope knows that she knows, and so he's like, look, you don't have to tell me. I know that getting revenge on Snow is not going to bring my mother back. You don't have to tell me that. I got to do something, though. And Lightning's like, Snow did not kill your mother. Like, he just like says it like straight up.
She says Sanctum did.
Yes, Sanctum did.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, she's like, I'm not going to fault you for wanting revenge. Just pick your fucking
I'll go
target.
along with you. We'll kill that guy. I hate him.
Pick your
But
target. It's a very like emotional just like monologue that Hope is giving about how, I know that killing Snow's not going to bring my mom back, and he finishes it off by saying, but sorry is not good enough. Like, sorry is not going to help. Like, him apologizing to me is not going to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I know people can be frustrated with Hope, because he's growing through all this stuff, and he's a little kid when this happens to him. But I mean, I feel like we've all gotten hung up on stuff, right? Where like we know we're being irrational. Yeah. We know that we're being irrational, but we can't let it go, right? And like I feel I really identify with him in this scene where he's like, look, I know I'm being irrational, and like, but I need to do something, right? Like I can't just like live with this. I have to do something to get past this, and just hearing him say sorry is not like, that doesn't do anything for me. It's very interesting.
Right.
He also says like, whose side are you on? Because he's like, he feels betrayed a little bit by, and Lightning says, I'm on the side of truth.
Killer.
Which is like really cool. But I was also kind of like,
she stands on a little soapbox before she says it.
Facts and logic.
Oh no.
But it is like true. Like, she's saying facts and logic as in like the source of all our problems is the state. Like, yes, correct. Lightning.
The earnest version of facts and logic.
What side are you on? The immortal science of Marx, of Karl Marx.
The side of the proletariat.
But Hope says, fine, I'll fight the Sanctum with you. I'll learn to survive.
Yeah.
She has successfully indoctrinated him to be an enemy.
You know
of the
what?
state.
I will say, for being like so like standoffish or whatever, and like kind of inhuman in some ways, she's very good actually at communicating with Hope. It's like she's blunt when she needs to be and friendly when she needs to be.
Well, it's because she had this like crisis moment with on the bridge when Odin came out, and she realized like she's like all this kid has, and she has to protect this kid, and like she's learning how to she's growing too. That's what's so great about this whole scene.
It's really a good scene.
I'm sure part of it was like, well, I was too late to save my sister, but maybe I can help Hope.
Especially with how she lost her sister, like, and we'll learn more and more about it, but it's literally just she was so dismissive and shut her out so immediately and just wouldn't listen to her that it ultimately led into the events of what we saw happen with Sarah. And because of that, she's like, well, I don't want to let that happen again. Like I need to change myself and stop doing that so that I can maybe help others around me, instead of just being a loner is not going to cut it. And it's actively put people I care about in risk.
Right.
But now we get to fight a bunch of these soldiers.
We do get a little voiceover from Vanille as we're
Oh shit.
as the camera pans over these dead soldiers. I'm assuming these are the WAB.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, and as she's talking, it zooms in on like what looks like a phone or something glowing as well that has fallen out of one of their pockets, which is interesting. A little glowing like green light. I'm not sure what.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But Vanille's voice says, "How can you judge someone else when you know that you're the same? Even I have dark secrets I'd rather forget."
I can't wait till we can start to crack into those a little bit.
Yeah.
That's probably nothing.
So there are a couple some of the core shows up, and we fight them during this section of the game for this last little bit. It's really not much. I mean, from that cutscene to the boss is maybe like 5 minutes of walking and battling. It's pretty much right there.
Boss.
A boss.
I guess we mentioned the boss last episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do fight another Velocicle.
We do fight another Velocicle. I was like, ooh, another one.
A Milvis Velocicle.
Oh, you gotta go Milvis. You can't go for like a cheaper model. If you're gonna get a Velocicle, it's gotta be Milvis or better.
Baby.
Milvis or better, baby.
Built like a Milvis.
Yeah, where's the soul?
Where's the soul?
Milvis or Muffin. It's the same thing. It's just red and looks like the Akira motorcycle even more. It's got little machine guns on the side. I don't know why they designed like self-propelled motorcycles.
It's to be able to counter the launch technique.
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably it, honestly. I don't know if they're like actually like cybernetic like animals. Is there like a little mouse in there? Or something?
A little hamster running around and a wheel that powers the Velocicle. But yeah, so right after that, literally after we fight the Velocicle, the very next thing that happens is
we get an ether soul from a.
I hate you so much. we started a cutscene, and a big plant dinosaur. But it's like an Ochu. It kind of looks like the Ochu, I would say.
We go up this giant lift though. Like I think like basically the boss fight is on an elevator, right? But I'm not sure.
It's not while the elevator's like moving or anything.
Yeah,
but
we got on the elevator, and
It's a really large platform.
You can run around with the elevator. The reason I want to bring this up too is because
very classic FF7 kind of thing where you can run around during scene changes.
Yeah, always fun to do that, except when you have to redo this part multiple times. Which, as we've said in the past, the retry in this is a very forgiving feature. However, if you get like if you keep getting game overs on this boss and you decide, I'll come back to it tomorrow, and you turn your game off, when you reload from the last save, which was right before this elevator, it puts you back like another save file, and you have to run through those fucking enemies again. Which Zwanzig has also said.
My version crashes a ton. I'm playing on the PC. And
are you playing in 4K? Because if you are,
no, I'm just playing in 1080p.
Okay.
And it's
mine's very unstable.
Oh god, it's miserable because it always crashes at the end of a cutscene. Like when it's loading either the next cutscene or the next like area, it'll hang and crash. And so like I just have anxiety the whole time. I'm just running to save points and saving and then doing level up and then saving again. Like it's just
Square Enix fixed your game.
Yeah, and again the save points are just kind of inconsistent in a way because you save right before an area after you cleared it out, and then it's like, oh no, well you have to do this again if it crashed. Even though you saved there, you're loading that save, but we're putting you back further for whatever reason. And Zwanzig also said that when practicing this boss fight, which is apparently a difficult one to practice in the speedrun, you have to fight through that Veloci cycle or whatever each time. He's like, fighting these enemies to just practice the boss sucks.
Well, good thing I'm not speedrunning it.
Yeah.
No Steam or Flux.
Shout out to Nins, friend of the podcast. But yeah, so this boss is kind of like, it reminds me of like Ochu, but
this is it, Operation Nora.
Yeah.
He's trying it out, see how it feels.
As soon as it jumps down on us, that's what Hope says. Yeah, this is Operation Nora.
He charges in and he goes like he's gonna bonk it, and then like doesn't do anything, and then the fight starts, and we're like, oh boy, like that's not a good way to get revenge, is to immediately get owned. Curtis, you're right. This does kind of look like an Ochu. It looks like a Pokemon, like a Bulbasaur, but instead of
Bulbasaur, yeah,
has a bulb on the back.
It looks like so many things. Like
its legs look like the frickin' ball pitcher from the Al Bhed ship,
the Obliterator or whatever it was called.
Oh, you're right.
It's got a big old Squidward nose too.
Yeah,
big old schnoz,
big old snoot.
And it reminds me a lot of like a Zelda boss. like Baronade or something from like Ocarina of Time. I don't know. Like there's something about it it touches like a very like nostalgic part of me. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
This thing hits hard.
Yeah.
Yo, this thing
like
hits
body
hard.
slams you. Like it throws you up in the air and fucking like pro
Its
wrestling.
bulb
like,
unfurls and just like slices
So
you. Like
that's
it
the
spins
big
and shit.
attack that I think is the most dangerous that you're talking
Yeah.
about. It's called efflorescence.
Yeah, fuck
And
that one.
It unfurls the bulb on the back. It's the bulb rotates and hits you multiple times, and it can take both of your because it's an area of effect. It can hit both of your party members and almost one hit KO them. I think if you're like full health, it'll put you in like one hit away from death or whatever. Which
Yeah.
is why it's so necessary. Cast Protect with Hope in this battle. You must do this.
Yes.
Because if you do, it's not that threatening. I think it won't even take you past half. Like the Synergist and Saboteur skills in this game are ridiculous. They are so effective. It's maddening how good they
So
are.
what were y'all's strategies going into this? Like I'm curious what paradigms people have and stuff. Like because the two parties like you're like it's so swingy, right? Like the paradigms really matter because you only have two people.
I did my usual doubling up. So I had 2 paradigms of Commando Ravager and 2 paradigms of Ravager.
Nice.
And then I had a Commando Synergist and a
Double dose, I think you had, right?
and double dose. Yeah.
Interesting.
So whenever I healed, I just both characters heal real quick, get it done, go back out.
So the thing about this fight, as I will soon notice if you use like a Libra or a Libra scope on it, is that its weakness changes throughout the fight, which can be really frustrating if you don't know to look for it.
Very spheromorph.
Yeah, I like it has a name for the attack. It's called exoproofing, and it'll say like exoproofing fire. So now fire doesn't work, but the opposite of whatever it's using will work.
Yeah, and it'll be vulnerable to that. And
So do your party members, like, if you have like a Libra
If
or
you
whatever
Libra them,
enabled,
they'll figure it out.
but you don't have to Libra every time, it just automatically
Yeah.
picks up on it.
I gotta say that is like such an amazing quality of life improvement. I'm so happy they did that because I've always struggled with boss weaknesses in Final Fantasy, and it's just so nice to like scan it once and then just when you auto attack, they will just always pick the weakness, and it's just like thank you. That's all I want.
yeah,
You know?
it's necessary in this.
I love that this game, it feels like I'm being like a football manager
Yeah.
instead of like a micromanager.
Yeah.
Where it's like, all right, this play, now do that one. Okay, now back him up.
Yeah.
All right, figure out the instead of just like, okay, now you do this and this and this and this, and then you have to do this.
It's
and
really
this.
funny when you have like different party leaders that and you change paradigms like in game they're the ones that are calling the shots, and so like you get like
Yeah.
I think like later when Vanille is like running the show, like she's like I have a great idea and like it's like so cute.
I don't think we mentioned it this episode, but we did last episode, I believe. This boss is named the Aster Proto-Florian,
Yeah.
Great name.
the Adrian Peterson.
You will call him Adrian in Mutski's honor since he could not be here for this.
Yeah.
He completed his focus and has been turned to crystal. He will not be able to make it for this one.
This fight fucking bodied me. If anyone watched my streams, I streamed all of my attempts for it.
The stream is actually what saved my ass because I watched you stream it before
Nice.
I hit it. I'm like, oh, like, I have to keep an eye on the elements. I see. Like,
Learn by doing and learn by failing, and I'm glad my failure helped you do. But yeah, I just I think the big, and in a similar fashion, I watched Curtis do this after my first attempt at this, where it was the end of like a almost like 3-hour session of playing, and I didn't really have too much time to like grind into it. So I think part of my downfall was like I just need to try and brute force this and just go and try and do it fast, and I wasn't really strategizing all too well, and I just kept like I figured out pretty easily that it was changing elements and I could use that wasn't really the problem, but getting it to stagger for me was very difficult. Like one of the attempts that I tried, I was able to stagger, and I was like, oh, cool, I got it. I can win now. One stagger wasn't enough to bring him down to no HP. So I was like, oh, I just do that again. And then I couldn't stagger him again. I couldn't figure out why.
I watched some of your battle with him or whatever, and yeah, the missing thing there was staggered duration.
Yeah,
which,
and you talked about that in last
yeah.
episode with it being sticky.
Well, Mutski posted about that in the Discord too. Like that's what saved me. I had already read that because he was saying like, "Oh, I noticed you guys are starting attack chains a lot with Rav," and like, and then when I started playing the game, I was like just reading so closely what he wrote. Like I have to understand this, and like that's what it was.
It's
right?
easy
That,
to
like,
miss. It's
calm,
and I,
like Com locks in the chain for like a long time, so you have time
Com
to
and
build it up with
Saboteur
Rav.
both.
Yeah,
So
it took me a while to realize that Saboteur like counts that way.
Yeah, so
I also forgot that you can set what the default paradigm is going into battle.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, it's vulnerable to lightning magic. Let me just double Rav and like go at it with lightning. And I was doing more damage, but I wasn't able to get the stagger up enough because it was running out by the time I could get to the next one. If I was using Commando, I think the pro strat that Curtis gave was like do 2 rounds of Commando to get it up enough to where you can then stagger and then switch to Ravager. But I was just like, my brain was not working.
I do
The beauty of
everything
it
in
is
2 rounds because I always want that ATB refresh.
Exactly. It's the auto ATB. Like, if you switch every 2 rounds, then every second time around, you're gonna not have to wait for the ATB to fill up.
Exactly.
So like, I just had like, I had Com Rav and Rav, and I just like 2 of one, switch the other, 2 of the other, and then I had like Synergist and Com, and I had Medical and Com. And the idea was like I always had someone attacking, and if only one person was attacking, I wanted it to be calm so that they would just like lock in whatever chain I had.
Yes,
you know?
yes. I
and
used
do my
that.
healing and then go back on the offensive.
I used that strat, that exact one, Corey, on like the next boss fight, and that it was after that click. And again, this is a thing that the game might explain to you that. But not in a way that really makes sense, or it just might not. It might not be in the manual. Who the fuck knows? It's hard to keep track of. But once you get it, you're like, oh, okay. It really opens it up because it's like, it's an important mechanic that is not explained too well. So I think that could also have really been a part of the frustration that a lot of people had with this game, which gave them such a negative opinion because these fights are tough. And again, we talked about how retry makes it easy to just go and go and go. But if you save, then you have to start over. You have to go up that big elevator again. You have to fight those other enemies, and it can get very tedious.
It helps too that I had played Final Fantasy VII Remake, and like that was the game that introduced me to the concept of staggering. So when I got to 13, I was like, oh, okay. So basically, like, you're not going to do any damage until you stagger them is what I just assume at this point. And so like, I'm just like all about stagger first. And like, it's made the game a lot easier, just like with understanding like that kind of logic of a fight.
Yeah.
Going into it.
Yeah. But overall, a cool fight. I mean, it kicked the shit out of me. I hated it, but I learned a lot through the failure of it. So, Dark Souls brain go burr. I'm like, fuck yeah. It's good. It's good, actually.
I love scrapping. I love just.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a cool fight. It made me feel real smart. This game is good at making you.
It's been cool how they've really ramped up the chaos of these fights. Like my roommate was watching me play like later on in the game when things really start hitting.
Oh
like a
my
fever
goodness,
pitch.
they get mad.
He doesn't play any Final Fantasy, so he was like, well, this is more exciting than like a turn-based fight, but I have no idea what's going on. And I was like, oh yeah, don't look at the numbers. Like, don't look at anything that's going on. It's just like, who's attacking who, what paradigm am I in, and how many rounds have I been in that paradigm? That's like really all I'm paying attention to.
It's like instead of being a turn-based strategy thing, it almost feels like a chess match where you have to know every kind of permutation that can happen, and you have to plan ahead a couple steps for that and like know how to counter.
He plays a lot of Magic the Gathering, and I was explaining like, so you're kind of doing almost deck building, right? You're doing work ahead of time to build your paradigms for the enemies you're going to fight. And like, that's half of the fight. And then when you come in, you're prepared and the things you need will come up. And like, then the skill of like utilizing them comes in. So it's like this.
Yeah, you make a playbook.
Yeah,
That's
it's
kind of
so
what I was
cool.
comparing to making calls during like a sports game or something.
It's actually funny because right now when we have 2 characters, I feel like, all right, you know what? 6 paradigms, that's just enough to like have everything that I need. But when we have 3 people, I'm always like, oh my god, only 6 paradigms. That's
I do. I really like the names that they come up with for all the paradigms. Like
they're so good.
They really tickle me. Like they're so like it's such a great. It's really great.
The fact that they have the triple names for 3 characters and the 2 ones too. That's so
it's
good.
Really cool.
Yeah, it's
they
really
might
good.
have singles too because we get a couple scenes in a chapter or 2 where we're playing as one.
Yeah, I mean the single is just the name of the role. It's like
is it
Saboteur,
okay?
Yeah. But I mean, it's cool. Like Archmage and like Combat Clinic. Like they're great. They're really great names.
Double dose.
Yeah.
But yeah, so once we're done with the boss, Hope says, Operation Nora Phase 1 complete. And I was like, okay. Which, like, whatever. He's a kid.
It's a
It's
super
fine.
Japanese line.
Yeah.
The same energy as Luke Skywalker giving Han Solo shit for saying he doesn't believe in the Force. He's like, you literally just learned about that. Like,
Well, think about also, Lightning asked him like earlier in that zone, like, oh, are you scared? And he's like, no, I'm not scared at all. And it's like obvious that he's really fucking scared.
yeah.
So you can see like this childish, like just facade, right? And like it's part of his, coping mechanism. It's cool.
And then there's a little small section just past the boss before we kind of get into the larger world, before we leave the Gapra Whitewood. It's still the same like assets, but they're in a different color because you can see that we're leaving them. And I really like this area. Like it's like the foliage is like pruned back a little bit and it's not so dense, and it's only for like a couple feet. And I was just like, this is nice.
It's
like
really nice.
I like that. Like it feels like there's a transition out of it.
It was a
cool.
similar scenery and feeling to when we got to like the inn or whatever in Final Fantasy X, where the Chocobo Eater was.
Oh
I
yeah,
forget
sure.
that, but where same thing. Like off in the distance, you see a nice little structure. It's Palampolum here, but it very much felt like that to me. And I was like, oh, I've been here before.
Yeah. Well, once we get out of the forestry, you're right. We see like a scene that almost reminds me of like that looking out over the Mihan High Road over the.
I think
the
it's
water.
also the same. Like the sun is setting, so it's the same sort of time setting.
Yeah.
I got 3 stars, by the way. But you get 1,000 Christogen points for this fight, which is super sick.
Sweet mana. Also,
Yeah.
Curtis, I want to say, in ecology terms, what you're describing is an ecotone. It's like a transition
Tone.
thing that's like really important. Actually, there's a lot of species that exist. The eco line, like the space between 2 major ecosystems.
Huh.
Oh, that's what Dave Matthews was singing about.
I appreciated that. Okay.
We also get creature comforts from this battle, which I
We
did not
do,
look
we
into
do.
at all, but I think that's another online retail shop.
Because I am militantly opposed to crafting, I immediately ignored that. I will say it's very frustrating because whenever I play a Final Fantasy game, I'm like hungry for a fight because I need experience. So I've been going out of my way to fight people to get the little item spheres, and literally like 2/3 of them are materials, and I don't use the materials, and I'm just like so angry.
Can I say real quick? I want to point this out. So Steven from the Daycare Dittos podcast
Bless, love Steven so much.
texted us on the 530 Materia fucking hotline that you also, listener, can text us at, and said, money's not that bad. Just sell all your chips. Just sell your chips. I got like 1 million things. I did sell all of my chips and got like 1,000 guild total. I looked today to make sure I didn't forget any, and I didn't. I'm so broke.
I also haven't spent any money. I've never
And I haven't spent any money.
Yeah,
I
I
looked
have
today. I have 4,000 gil. I've never purchased anything, and I've sold all of my chips.
Dear listener, let me reassure you, this game lets you do whatever you want to do. You don't have to craft. You don't have to buy anything. You can 5-star your fights well into the game if you're just smart about your paradigms and smart about your strategy. And you just do every single fight that you can do.
That's my call out of Daycare Ditto, Steve. But also, I love you. Thank you so much for
Steven's the
messaging
best. So
us.
we definitely
I know,
need
the
to,
absolute best.
I think I'll spoil it a little. We're gonna have him on this season finally.
Okay.
So most of the Daycare Ditto crew. I don't think Sarah has played many Final Fantasy games, but we should get her to play one. So,
Oh, it's about
or
time.
we should
She
do
has
like
to
a special
start.
episode on something here.
All right, so yeah, they're standing. Hope and Lightning are standing out, looking over the water. They see Palampolum on the other side. They're kind of like in like a bay, right, or like a very thick fjord, but like it's too wide to be a fjord.
It's like a big key.
A key, you might say. But they're looking across. They see Palampolum. Lightning's like, that's where you live, right? Like, we should go there. And Hope's like, oh, we're let's see. There's no one there but my dad. And she's like, you really do need to go see him. Like, I don't know what your deal is, but like, you need to go tell him what's happened. And that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah, I like that. Before we get there, Lightning does tell Hope that he did well in the fight, which is very nice.
That's true. That's true.
Also note that originally Lightning said no side trips at Palampolum. And now she's saying, we got to go see your dad. Like, you got to talk
That's
to
right.
him.
That's right.
Maybe I can get rid of you.
It's just Jacked again, and he's like, you little shit.
You can't do it. You're gonna cry again.
No, I have an incredible challenge for all of us. Can we take a real quick break, go to the restroom, and come back and knock out all of Chapter 6 in like 45 minutes? I bet we can.
I think we might be able to, honestly.
I think we can.
There's a lot going on, but not too much to talk about, I feel like.
Not too much. Okay.
Only time
all right.
will tell.
Well, I will see you when we're back from break.
Alrighty.
Oh, yeah.
Oh god, we have a whole snow scene to get through, don't we?
I'll try not to simp too hard for snow this time.
You simp to your heart's desire. Who am I? Who am I to stand in the way?
So we just left. We left Gapra Whitewood.
We have left the wild wood.
I think it's funny that there's no gate on the other side.
No, there's not. You can just leave on the other side.
Just letting all the fish and people just walk, all the beachgoers just walk in.
More importantly, letting the things walk out. I mean, I guess there was the elevator there and stuff, but it's like you got all these horrible beasts, and the worst of them are concentrated towards the back entrance, and you're like, that's fine. Just let them near the huge tourist destination.
Very interesting, isn't that, Carl?
Yeah.
In fact, the data log said that the Gapra Wildwood is like the transition zone between like Palimpolum and the Vile Peaks. So part of it is to discourage people from going to the Vile Peaks. And so it makes sense that the most dangerous part is the part closest to the human settlement. That like, whoa, wow, the wilds are so dangerous.
That reminds me of a fact that I learned on the Daycare Dittos podcast about how I think the U.S. military had electrified a channel, like a man-made channel somewhere. I forget where specifically.
Yeah.
But it was to keep like carp from getting from one end to the other. But they also are like, hey, no one is allowed to swim in here because if you swim in here, it will electrify your heart to the point where your heart stops beating. So don't do it. You will die.
It's really cool how that works though, right? Because like it stuns the fish and then they just float back.
It doesn't kill the fish. They just like get real sleepy and go.
Well, I'm sure it gets real ticklish for like a few hundred feet and like, oh, this is a little funny. And then it just passes out after. So.
That was kind of nice. I'm gonna swim there again.
It's such an American like response. It's like, okay, well we've installed an invasive species and they're about to take over like an entire Great Lake. So our solution is to electrify the entire river,
like we always do. Make it uninhabitable.
Well, no, what's crazy is right up until that point, the fish swimming upstream, they collect there because they touch the electric field and then they float back down and they touch it and float back down. And it becomes a feeding frenzy for the birds. So like the seagulls actually like chill there because they know there's like, and they'll actually perch on the electrified wires and like just dive and take carp out. Like it's like
so the only response to that is to electrify as well the natural predator of the seagulls and to keep doing that until we have a literal hell on earth situation by the Great Lakes.
They got to keep the Californians from coming for their water.
But anyway, we are out of the Wildwood and into the freezer.
We're once again aboard the Lindblom.
We are on the Lindblom.
God, the music for the Lindblom is so good. I love that.
Importantly,
I love it so much.
So we see Snow, and he is no longer in restraints at all, right?
Yeah.
That we know of.
Yeah, that we know of. He's got like a chastity belt on. We just can't see it.
I need to come clean that I really struggle at all the criticisms of Snow because actually Snow's like one of my favorite characters in this game.
Okay, well, no,
Hey,
2-on-2. There you go.
Listen, I'll give you a big hug the next time we hang out. I haven't been criticizing him.
I was talking to some friends while I was playing the game, and I was showing them how like queer coded all the characters' like outfits are and stuff, and like just especially like I love Fang and Lightning's character design so much. They look so fucking cool. And they're like, "Oh, so are you like? Do you see yourself as Lightning?" I was like, "Oh no, I'm Snow." I'm the dumbass himbo with uncompromising morals, which is like so annoying when you first meet him, but he's got a heart of gold.
I think meeting Corey may be the reason why I'm so enamored by Snow, and I'm like, everyone's just too mean about Snow. I will die defending Snow. God damn it!
Just caked up, saying everyone's so mean to me.
Well, when things are trivial, right? And he's like, I live by my ideals, and people are like, yo, okay, buddy, whatever. And then the shit hits the fan, and he's like, I still live by my ideals, and they're like, oh damn, for real? Like that's like, I fuck with that so much.
Snow good, Corey great.
So yeah, he's looking at his. Did you call his jack off crystal?
No.
I might have.
He's looking at
That sounds like something I would say.
Yeah, he's looking at his it's not his Millerite. What the hell is this? The what are the summons called?
Idoliths.
Yeah, the Idolith.
Idolins, yeah.
The Idolith, that's right.
Is it his idolith, or is it the crystal that he picked up when Sarah turned
I
the
think
crystal?
it's.
Oh, you're maybe right. Yeah,
it's Sarah's tier. Yeah, it's.
You're right.
Is
My mistake.
Sarah's
His jack off
Lassie
crystal
tier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that he clutches to his heart to remember.
If I did call that a jack off tier, then that is extremely rude and mean.
In the Japanese version, Fang has the coolest fucking voice actor. Like,
Really?
I love any time Fang is talking in the Japanese version. She's so fucking cool that when I go back to the English, I'm just like, why? Like, why does she sound like that?
Especially because the not an Aussie native.
Yeah.
Using an Aussie language.
Oh yeah, I was about to ask you, Corey. Like Ketchi having a regional dialect, do Vanille and Fang have a regional dialect? Have you noticed?
It's not like as pronounced as like it's that dialect. It's not like a Kansai Ben or anything, but they do have kind of
It's
like
a Sendai dialect.
they have like a country twang to, like, you know, but it's also just because she's really gruff and she's kind of like, you know, got a tomboy energy
Like
to her.
Osaka and Azumanga Daioh, where she's supposed to sound like she's from the South or
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, she definitely speaks much more casually and like, you know, kind of brusquely than say Lightning, or like, you know, other people from Cocoon. But it's not like a pronounced dialect. It's more just like maybe a class kind of thing. Like she's from the country or something, from the sticks.
Working girl.
Based.
She's so cool. I would die for Fang. I'm officially a Fang simp. I just got.
She's cool. I mean, I love how like. I mean, just from our first encounter, like, how does someone look so intimidating and so kind at the same time? Like, it's so weird. Like,
Yeah,
they really nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean, these graphics hold up great for that.
they really tightened them up.
But yeah, Snow and her are like coming up with what they're talking about, a game plan or something.
Yeah, so we don't quite know what the deal is yet, right? But we can see the kind of like the last time we saw Snow, right? He was being talked to by Sid, and Sid's like, "Oh, we have plans for you. We're gonna need your help to find the other Lassie," right? And now Snow's not he's not being chained or anything. He doesn't have handcuffs on. He has his freedom, and he's also like, okay, well, I guess it's time for the plan now. So like, he's been explained something that has brought him over to kind of agreeing with him, right?
So,
and like you said, Corey, like he's like a character who like does not get, you know, he does not compromise his morals no matter
if
what.
any character was going to betray the party, it would not be fucking.
It would not be Snow. So we have to assume that like there's some kind of sneaky something going on.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing to bring up, because remember, like in previous episodes, I've been like, I'm waiting for that other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for the Waka moment or whatever. I'm like,
No, it's never that, yeah.
And they've kind of been setting it up where it's like, oh, Snow is going to betray them because he wants to help Sarah, and Sarah's whole mission is opposed to the parties as it seems right now and stuff. But like in this cutscene that we're getting to, he literally says to himself, like, I'm gonna keep my promise, Lightning, which is really cool. So I'm like, okay, any doubt that I have, which is only self-inflicted from everyone fucking gaslighting me about Snow and saying he sucks and stuff, when I have seen no evidence.
I wanna
Here's
say-
the thing: if Snow
go ahead.
did like betray the party, if he had like any ounce of pragmatism, I might actually like him more.
God damn it,
I'd be
Chris.
like,
Listen, I wanna
God, at
say,
least
though,
he has a brain.
that I think Snow's voice actor in English does a lot to make him like kind of like really like irksome, because he just has this like kind of surfer bro like kind of tone. I don't know how to describe
Troy
it.
Baker.
I
We
just
gotta get Troy
hate,
Baker
I hate
on
how
the
he
pod
sounds.
to defend himself.
His voice actor in Japanese is like much more like stomachable. Like he's much more believable as like an earnest guy. Like I don't know. I like.
I do like Troy Baker's performance. With Snow. I actually think it's pretty good. No, I understand.
The other thing I was gonna say is, you're talking about having a Waka moment, but like literally, we already have a character who wants to kill another party member. Like,
yeah.
So you don't need the twist. There's already a villainous
Yeah.
character in the party that's like wants to like betray the party, like, and kill someone. And it's Hope, right? Like he's literally playing with a knife and you're like, I'm going to kill Snow.
I
I
cannot
got my
wait.
snow killing knife.
I cannot wait to talk about the Sazh and Vanille part. Okay. Because
Sorry.
of what you're all saying right now. No, because of that. It made me think of it. I was just like, speaking of inter-party tension.
Oh, that's a good point, actually.
Yeah,
You're right.
Yeah. Oh my
So-
god.
So Snow's ready to do something. Fang says, "Don't get all hot and bothered," because he's like, he's ready to go. And he takes a look at Sarah's tear that he's still holding and says, "Am I doing the right thing?" And we get a flashback, right?
Yeah.
So we get another Bodum flashback, day 12. So the day after Lightning's birthday, right?
The transition from that like back and forth, like that Joss Whedon-esque fucking back and forth with Fang and Snow, into this scene where we just see a face in the visage just
What is this
screaming? I was
What
like,
is
what
this
the
thing?
fuck? Yeah, like, oh my god.
The vestige is like
Is the vestige alive?
It's screaming and like glitching out and it all
I mean, is that
staticky
the
and stuff.
fal'C? Is that the pulse fal'C?
I don't think so. Because that was Anima, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Anima is the fal'C.
it looks like whatever this is on the outside, like clinging to the vestige.
It's so strange.
That's the problem with these flashbacks and not watching on YouTube, is that you kind of blink and you'll miss.
Well, but the thing is, the data logs were saying that there's like millions of fal'C. fal'C.
Oh, yeah.
fal'C.
So
yeah.
I mean, it could just be like a minor fal'C as part of the vestige that like operates the outer doors or walls or whatever.
Oh, could
but
be.
like,
it's the angry fal'C.
it's so uncanny.
Yeah, but we see Snow.
It's the scene transition fal'C. Every scene transition needs
It's the Ken Burns. Well, I guess that doesn't make sense, but but we see Snow leading Sarah, and they're
They're booking
running for their life, literally, because they are being pursued by Psycom, and Psycom's like, there they are, get them! Like, it's a very tense situation.
and they take off in their cool one of the Psycom motorcycles.
Also, real quick, this is the Guardian Corps. I'm looking at their helmets
shit.
right now. Yeah, this is the Guardian Corps. This is the real deal.
I guess it would fall under their jurisdiction at this point, which is very interesting. But I do like that Sarah jumps in at like side saddle.
Oh, I
on
love
Snow's
it. I
lap,
love the
which
way she jumps in.
It doesn't look like the safest way to ride this thing, but whatever. I mean, anything that Snow is driving is not going to be safe anyway, so fuck it.
There's no seatbelts on any of these like hover motorcycles that have no soul.
Yeah.
He's just clutching his girl. You just got to white knuckle the wheel and clutch your girl at your side and right up to the pulse vestige.
Yeah, but he kind of just takes it onto the water and is like outrunning all of the bullets and heavy artillery that's being fired at them, and then he kind of
Right.
takes it up into the air, getting pursued. They do get hit and start to kind of get out of control a little bit, but luckily Snow is able to get Sarah onto a platform, very like Breath of the Wild kind of like platform into one of the divine beasts, but is able to get her in there, and then I think she like immediately starts getting kind of engulfed by it, right? Like she reaches out and is like, Snow.
Yeah, so in the data log, it explains that what Snow's trying to do is he's trying to do like a last minute negotiation with the fal'C, take her to the fal'C, be like, what is going on here?
Yeah,
and so he's
tell
like,
me
okay,
my
we're gonna
focus
go.
or let me not be this.
Yeah, exactly. So he drops her in front of this portal, and like you were saying, like the portal like extends these like tendrils out and like grabs Sarah and like yanks
Yeah, it
her
looks
back
like
in.
Mercury is just like engulfing her and pulling her in. It's
not good. You don't want to be touching Mercury or ingesting it.
Gallium's okay.
Yeah, Snow does reach out for her and they call for each other and they almost grab hands, but then she is just, ripped inside, and Snow is on a motorcycle that has effectively been destroyed.
This is precisely the thing that we didn't want to happen.
Yeah.
And as soon as she gets
Snow's just kind of like, oh, whoops.
yeah, as soon as she gets pulled in fully, like a hatch or whatever closes, and then like a blue energy kind of like emits out of it in a sphere, and does not do the motorbike any favors, and then we just see it crashing to earth with Snow in it and lands on the beach, and Snow is just like He's fine, but I was like, well, Snow's dead. Like,
Yo, I thought about it. Like the intensity he hits the ground with. I was like, he would be dead.
yeah, he's just laying on the sand and like picks himself off and like dusts himself off and shit.
When he stands and poses all cool.
He does the same exact pose where he's like kneeling on one leg as when he fell off the hanging edge, and like when he's looking up at the sanctum.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Sarah, like the same exact. Parents the same exact shot.
Yeah,
It's kinda-
he's just looking up at where she was, and she's infinitely away. And then we get a voiceover from Snow, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went to the Foul Sea hoping to help her, but I was too late.
And then he snaps back out of it because Fang smacks him in the back of the head.
Yeah, very funny. And not like she hits him hard, but he's like, ow. And she's also like, ow. Like,
Yeah.
very silly moment because she's like, oh, I knew you had a hard head. Again, more Joss Whedon energy here. I mean, I feel like that's a pejorative. I do enjoy the back and forth, but it brings
Also,
to mind like
that kind of
Firefly or
like
something.
that bop on the head is like a very like typical Japanese thing. I don't know, they bop each other on the head a lot. It's like very common. I'm not exaggerating.
It wasn't the pass out one that.
No,
she
it
did
wasn't the
earlier.
Vulcan
No.
like karate chop in the neck. It was just like pickle, like just like, hey, like, you know, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, snooze button.
But yeah, they they have a comic little back and forth, and he says, "All right, let's see hunting." And he gets in a motorcycle like that's on the Lindblom, and the camera kind of zooms into his hand. He's looking at Sarah's tear, and then that's the end of the scene, and we get the option to save.
Yeah, he says, "I'll keep my promise, Lightning."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, to protect Sarah. I'm assuming that's the promise he made. Unless he's talking about the promise, he says, "I'll
No,
complete
I
my
think
focus and protect Sarah," which he said when they separated on Brescia.
Yeah, I think it's what he said it in Brescia. Mm-hmm.
I'll do it. I'll do both.
I'll make everyone happy. How hard could
It's
it be?
super animated to just be like, I will literally do everything. Like, I will protect everyone. Fuck you if you say I can't.
I'm gonna eat my cake and have it.
I'm gonna eat my cake and have it. But that's the end of that scene, and we start in chapter 6.
Yeah, we get a nice little party change
Beautiful.
to the dream team.
The Dream Team, Vanille and Sazh. And they are both like in a woods, but it's not like part mechanical like the one Lightning and Hope were in.
Part crystal in some ways.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So they need to show you that it's kind of mystical. So it's like a beautiful, lush jungle forest, except there's like these kind of crystal tendrils kind of coming out of different parts.
Well, because the whole
Yeah.
point, right, is like Cocoon is a constructed world, and up until now, it's all been like man-made environments. So this is the first time that it really feels like a natural, lush place. You know, which is very
Yeah,
kind
and
of
that these
jarring.
actually exist in Cocoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are in the Sunleth Waterscape.
I do
of
love the name of it.
The Ribarian Corridor.
But I like that the scene opens and like Vanille's kind of happy-go-lucky, skipping around, like enjoying, like, and she says like, "Oh, the fresh air is so nice." And Sazh is like, "How do you know? Like, where are we going? How do you know? How did you know how to get here?" And she's like, "Oh, I just followed the smell." And she like smells the flower, and like Sazh is like, "What?" And he kind of like sniffs around, and he's like, "Oh, I smell is damp."
The dank, Mo, the dank.
But Mo, you're not gonna get rid of the dank, are you? But
the first clue of like where she's from, right?
yeah,
You know, she's like, don't you feel so nostalgic? Like, isn't this nice? That's the term she uses in the Japanese. She's like,
It smells nice.
oh
all
really? She
nature-
says nostalgic.
doesn't it feel nostalgic? And he's like,
Yeah.
no, it just smells like grass.
In English, she says all naturey.
All naturey, yeah. But they hear motors and they hide and they see that there are some of those motorcycles flying overhead, and they refer to them as the Sky Fleet and say that they're heading toward Palimpolum. So they're like kind of wondering what they should do. They're still kind of aimless, whereas like Lightning and Hope have a mission. They're just escaping, right?
Yeah.
So they decide that like, okay, probably the best thing we should do is just head in the opposite direction. Like, if that's where the fleet's going, we should go the other way.
yeah,
and,
we're gonna go to the other town that's close to here.
Nautilus,
Yeah.
Sazh names it. Yeah.
They also mention, concern for the other party. They're like, well, they were heading to Palimpolum. Maybe they got caught in this net that, our enemies have cast for them.
Yeah. And in this, Vanille has a little voiceover here where she's like, as we continued going, Sazh became distant, and it's like he didn't even recognize that I was there anymore. And I think that is kind of shown in the voice acting. in this scene where like, and like his face is very like grave, he doesn't like smile or crack jokes or anything. He's just very somber. And as we go through this section, Sazh is very somber. So it's pretty good.
Almost like I didn't catch this on the first thing, but reading back and reading into it now, I'm like, okay, so he probably has a connection to this city of some kind, and now he's getting really absorbed in his thought because they're going to Nautilus, I think is the name of the town, right?
Yeah, Nautilus, where they're going.
City of Dreams.
The City of Dreams, in fact. But we are left to wander through the Sunleth Waterscape, and there are
the
some
old
very...
growth after getting the trophy Instrument of Survival.
There's some very like cute animals here. There's actually like flora and fauna, right?
It's a shocking shift in tone from like the like grim, edgy, like vengeance is the only thing on my mind. And you're fighting through these like waves of monsters in like a military camp. It's like literally like skipping around like a natural place and like fighting
and
cute
the
little
music,
monsters.
Yeah, the music is the promise, but given like a nice little like Euro like
Yeah,
it's really nice.
Very upbeat and shimmery.
It reminds me of like a Dreamcast OST a little bit. Like,
sure.
I feel like that was big on like the Sonic games on Dreamcast.
We don't really, until our next cutscene, we don't really get a lot of this, but I actually thought it was kind of nice because I've played the game before. I kind of know where it's going, and I'm kind of like, okay, this is a very serious section. Like, shit gets real grim, like in these cutscenes, and so I thought it was actually kind of neat that it's like, it's not bright outside, it's overcast, but it's still bright enough, and like the music's very fun, and you're fighting like goofy flan enemies and stuff that are like all wiggly, and I was just like, this is a really weird tone. I don't even want to say it's like, it's not so opposite.
Vanille's the leader in this chapter as well, so she's
consider the tone.
This is her perspective.
Yeah, well, also consider the tone of Vanille's character, right? Like, obviously she's concealing something. We know that at this point. Yeah, but she's she's all like sunny, go happy, like, oh, let's just run away, haha, I'm cute.
Everything's gonna be
like it's just run in the other direction. Yeah,
I love the little point. I like
a character defined by running away and by like obviously concealing things. Like we know from her dialogue, like talking about like her memories, like she opens the whole game up, right? Yeah. So this tone, like this map or zone is like she's the party leader, and like we have this clash of tones that it's like incongruous, right? Like they're dealing with some stuff, but it's kind of buried underneath like this kind of surface level of like everything is cute, everything's fine.
Yeah. It kind of makes sense with Hamauzu as the composer as well, because he's very good at that, where he taking things and making them tonally different than what appears. Also, in Vanille's defense, no one has straight up asked her what her deal is. Everyone's talking about themselves. No one's like, hey, what's your deal? Why?
She has lied directly to everyone in the party. We don't. That's not revealed until a little later, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we're as far as I know.
I will say that one other interesting thing that we'll get to later in this zone is the mechanic of switching the weather, which I know we'll get to later, but like that also plays into this like whiplash of tone, right? It's sunny, it's rainy. It's sunny, it's rainy. Like that's all part of like this kind of conflict.
And that's what, like, we were talking about, or I guess you were saying, Corey, earlier on, that like, a lot of people give a lot of crap to this game, or they don't like it because it's too linear or whatever. But I think that like the amount of like detail that's given to a lot of like the soul of the game is so deep in that
if you
way.
give this game a chance, like it will expand to like meet your expectations.
Yes,
like it's really, it gives a lot. You get what you put into it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, agreed. But yeah, I don't think there's really too much to say about the flan enemies, other than they look like cool, like, flan enemies.
They look like peppers.
Yeah, they look like chili peppers.
I think this is our first time fighting a flame.
They're very cute.
Super easy to preemptive strike. You can just sneak up.
Oh, they're so easy to preempt. They're dumb. They're
goopy.
They're goopy.
And they're weak to fire.
There are gremlins everywhere.
There's still gremlins. There's also like a super gremlin.
There's also a fucking dragon, a fucking wyvern that will fuck your shit up.
Fucking wyvern, who is a motherfucker, by the way.
I think the wyvern first shows up when we get to the weather mechanic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we go through. There's a few offshoots and stuff where we find some items. I forget what we find, but
let me tell you about one thing we find. The Procyon, which is a new weapon for Sazh, which I didn't equip and upgrade, but I thought its mechanic, like the thing it does differently, is interesting. It
I
didn't find
improves
that one.
stagger maintenance just by being on.
I
was
didn't
like,
equip it
oh,
until the end of the chapter, and I very much regret not equipping it right away.
Is it that
because
good?
It's pretty much a thing where it's like, hey, this is a good weapon. It's going to be less damage output from Sazh, and it's going to be less magic or whatever, especially because I just pumped some
Not a
upgrades.
ton, though.
Yeah, I just pumped some upgrades into the Deneb duelers, and with this upcoming part, a lot of it has to do with stagger. And I was like, damn, it probably would have actually been way easier if I had been using this shit from the beginning.
You know what's funny? I've been using the Vegas the whole time.
Oh, nice. Those are cool.
The other thing too is like in terms of leveling up, like Sazh has just gotten access to Commando, but you know
Yes.
he's much stronger as a Ravager. So like if you're just focusing on damage, like you kind of want him to be a Ravager more, which means that this party is like not very good at building stagger. They're both kind of like support characters. And I really experienced like this kind of like shift where it's like two like very, I mean, Hope develops into an aggressive character, but like by the end of that zone, you got two like fucking like heavy black mage and like a heavy like fighter. And you're just like slaughtering people. And then you cut to this like two support characters. And it's just like every fight is like a struggle to get the stagger bar up.
Well, I mean, we do have Vanille in Saboteur now, so she can really make that shit stick. And actually, the Ravagers build stagger faster than any other. So
Yeah, but I just mean getting it started. Like
I got you. I
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
It's very interesting going from like the last battle into this, where anytime you start a new chapter, immediately it feels like you're starting from step one, where you're like, okay, now I need to think about these
It's different.
roles. I need to think about these moves. What does Sazh have in this weird role that I haven't seen in a couple of hours? Like it's very interesting. But by now I had D protect and D shell and poison with Vanille,
Oh, yeah.
and that proved to be extremely helpful. in
Oh
this because
my goodness, they're so good.
You know,
My-
Vanille also gets a stat heavy weapon in this zone, doesn't she?
she does, yes.
Oh, good, I missed
What it
it.
was called.
I also forget what it's called. I when I see it in my playthrough, I can call that out.
Yeah, it's like plant themed or something.
yeah.
I didn't use it.
But yeah, it's cool. We didn't use it.
This area I love. There's a section where there's like just tons of those Flandergoras, and there's just like pepper plants around them. So it's like a little like flan garden.
Yeah,
it looks really nice.
Before we enter a tunnel, get a few cutscenes, and we meet those like scale beasts.
Oh my god,
Yeah, those
scale
fucking
beasts.
scale beasts.
God.
Let me tell you, I had the toughest time. Oh, the first time we fight them, they're on like a little step, and we fight. There's 4 of them there, right? And I was like, and the game tutorializes this. It gives us a tutorial. It says,
We get a little
"Hey, you
primer.
don't need to fight every enemy. Like sometimes
It's going to be hard to fight this enemy with only 2 people in your party.
Maybe you should just run on by." And I said,
I'm such
no.
a dipshit. Yeah, I'm such a dipshit.
Yeah,
I saw
I was
that. I was
like-
like, that sounds like a challenge.
Exactly,
And then I just bashed
exactly.
my head against these guys.
Immediately, I was like, well, let me see how easy it is to try hard this. And I fought the first one, and it took me 5 minutes, and I was like,
Yeah.
this definitely wasn't
And you
worth
get
it.
like 120 Christian
Yeah,
points. It's
yeah.
like not worth it. And
Not worth
my
it.
game was crashing, so I killed like 3 of
Yeah,
them,
yeah.
and then my game crashed, and I was like,
No.
fuck. Like,
Unless, so here's the thing, I killed 2 of them and they both took me like 5 to 6 minutes, and I was like, this sucks, but I'm gonna do it. And then I back attack or preemptive struck the next one, so he immediately staggered, and I said, you know what, let's just see what Vanille's like, because when they have their, so okay, let me talk about how they work. They don't take any fucking damage at all until they're staggered. And when I say at all, I mean they take like 20, 30 damage. But it's
point of
basically
stagger,
nothing.
Their point of stagger is 115%. So you'd think, oh, it's easy to stagger them. It takes so
It's so
many attacks
slow.
to get that 15%.
It's so slow. But when you do, you can finally start doing damage, and they lose access to most of their attacks other than like a normal physical attack. So they're much more safe to deal with. But they still have so much HP that you have to stagger them like 3 or 4 times to even take them down. It's ridiculous. And when they have their shell up before they've been staggered, you cannot hit them with any Saboteur debuffs. but you can when they're staggered. So I said, all right, preemptive strike, get them to stagger, throw those debuffs on there, and you can inflict poison on them, right?
Oh,
Poison
I
will
didn't have
straight
poison.
kill them before you have an opportunity to stagger them again. It
Interesting.
destroys them. And so
Poison
like
is pretty OP in this game.
it's so good. So the next
didn't have
two
access
fights
to
that
it
I
yet.
did, it took like 2 minutes or a minute 30 because I hit
That's
poison on there.
incredible.
So I think that's maybe part of what I did. Watching a few playthroughs, I was like, okay, there's like some people are generating new paradigms. So I actually went in and added one, which is called Divide and Conquer, which is Vanille being a saboteur and Sazh being a commando.
I got that one too, yeah.
Because I immediately noticed that like the scale beasts are like completely worthless with magic. So I just like, okay, I'm just gonna stick to physical attacks, and then while Vanille's debuffing him. And then when they hit break, I switched to dual casting because his little shingles or whatever come off. And that seemed to do pretty well.
It's
Yeah,
also
I agree.
important to note that the name, if you're familiar with older Final Fantasy games, D-Protect and D-Shell, you'll think, oh, okay, that's for like when Seymour puts up Protect, I have to use D-Protect or whatever. Nope, that is a thing that will just reduce their like defenses by something like, if I'm probably wrong about this, but I believe 89% or something, which is like
Zwanzig said
substantial.
what it was. Let's see here.
I think it might be 89%, or it's something very substantial, and
It probably depends on your level too.
Could-
on
it could,
your
yeah.
role level.
find out on the next Zwanzig correction corner.
89%. Holy shit.
Isn't that fucking insane?
That's nuts.
I just did it. I was like, okay, the game is obviously telling me just avoid this. Of course, I'm going to try because I'm a fucking Dark Souls player and I'm going to be like, can I beat this at soul level 1? You know, like whatever. So I beat that one. I was like, that was not worth it. And I kind of regret doing it. I'm not going to do that again. And then I jumped down like 2 cliffs and I see another one. I'm like, oh, there's another one. I'm not going to fight this one. And then I saw that it was protecting a treasure spear. And I was like, no.
Before we go past the scale beast, though, we do get a little bit of a flashback
Yeah.
cutscene
We do.
because we exit the tunnel where all the Flandagoras are, and we get this kind of. It reminded me a little bit when we're coming up on like the precipice and like the city of the ancients or whatever in FF7, except this being Cocoon, the horizon line goes up.
So cool.
And it's a little disorienting. Like the parallax effect you're expecting from the area is a little disorienting because like it doesn't move the way I'm expecting it to. It makes you feel a little dizzy.
It is though the most open environment we've been in. Like, I mean, not in terms of
Yeah.
movement, but in terms of view distance.
We get a few different paths. Like the scale beast, I think was like it opens up like, oh, there's different paths you can take. If you want to like just bypass these like enemies, you can go this way. As we enter the area with the scale beast, Vanille starts like making small talk, like, hey Sazh, tell me about yourself.
I actually like this.
This is really nice.
It's nice.
Yeah. Saz's just kind of like, huh? And she's like, oh, do you have any family?
He's still in his head, yeah. So he's kind of snapping out of it.
Yeah, she's trying to get him out of that and stuff. And he just tells her about his family. He says, I have a little boy. And she turns around and she goes, oh, so you're married? And he's like, well, I was. Yeah.
Oops.
Nope,
Yeah.
living in sin.
Yeah. But she kind of just like starts walking away and she's like, oh, we got to get you home. Your son needs you. And, kind of like, Vanille, read the room, maybe?
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't think...
So
I
morose.
think there's probably a reason that he's not with his son. But yeah, I think he just goes,
He says it's too late.
yeah.
And she's like, too late? Oh, is it the Lassie thing?
Is it the Lassie thing? That old
you know the
thing?
whole Lassie thing. It's not a big deal.
Lassie thing. It's too late for me to go see him because I'm a Lassie.
Yeah.
I think is what she did. But he reacts in a way like, how did you?
He goes,
like,
how did you know something? Like, what does that mean?
And she just says, you might be a Lassie, but you're still a daddy. Shout outs to Sweet Matter, who I'm sure is going to be like, yeah, Sazh is a daddy. We're on daddy watch.
And welcome to every FNFF 2022 Daddy Watch.
Daddy watch. But yeah, he kind of just centers himself and he's like, you're right. And she says, so what's his name? And he, of course, says what we were presuming earlier, Daj.
I love the way that his name comes up because we go to
He doesn't say it here, yeah.
we go to a flashback and the first word in the flashback is his son's name because he's talking to his son in the flashback. And I was like, That's good directing.
We're back at day 11 once again in the seaside city of Bodom, watching those sweet, sweet fireworks.
Love to make a wish on a firework.
We see our favorite low poly dog
There he goes.
running around on the beach. There's some characters here who just like look like Evangelion like pilots. Like there's one who literally just looks like Rey, which I appreciate. But yeah, we hear Sazh call for him and says Dodge, and then the cutest fucking kid in the world turns around with a big smile.
It's like they like factory engineered this child to be adorable. They're just like
the cutest
what
possible child. Yeah. And he just goes, "Hey, Dad."
And I will say, I really like this whole chapter and this whole this scene especially, because I love Sazh as a character. I think he's a great character, but we don't know that much about him, right? And he like cracks wise sometimes, and that's about it. But like, not only do we learn about his character, I mean, it's a video game, and so they have to do things to show us the way that he acts, like how we should interpret what he says and his actions. And I think this part really does a good job of being like, yeah, Sazh is a fun guy, but he has like a very real darkness about him at all times. You know,
Yeah.
they like multiple people comment on, and we're starting to like see that like, yeah, Sazh is kind of a dark guy. Like there's something.
Maybe him and Vanille are not so separate where they're like kind of have this facade that they're trying to keep up.
So I really like it. But yeah, we see him call out for Dodge, and Dodge is like, "Oh, Daddy!"
Yeah, and then we see Dodge is like got like, you know, traditional prayer hands, not the cool Vanille ones. And Sazh is just like, "Oh, making a wish, huh?" And probably the saddest wish I've ever heard in my life.
I know.
Making a wish, huh? What'd you wish for?
Well, you're never happy. You never smile. So here's what I wished. I wish that you'd cheer up and be like your old self again.
And he's like, and like he says this.
Come
so
on, baby,
genuinely,
want a
and so-
smile kill you?
It's a very like tragic thing because it's a little kid saying it. Completely genuine, big smile on his face. And he's like, "Daddy, I just want you to be happy again." And it's like that being an adult and being on the receiving end of that is fucking devastating.
It moves Sazh so much too, because Sazh like jumps to where he's like kind of sitting down, and he like gets on his knees and just both hands just bear hugs his son, right? Like he's like very moved by it.
I was expecting him to be crying at that because that's a rough thing to hear.
He puts Dodge up on his shoulders, right? He gives him like a little ride.
Before that, we do see the chocobo chick jump out of his hair, and then he fly around a little bit onto Dodge's shoulder.
But he puts him on his shoulders and says, "Well, how about that? Your wish came true." And then we see Saz's face, and he looks like 10 times worse than we could have than he did before.
Looking like pure shit. Yeah,
absolutely not having a good time. So I was just like, "Oh man, this part really got me. I really like this part. I thought it was very, very emotionally effective."
Yeah. Dodge does ask him, "Hey, what did you wish for?" And he says, "That's like my little secret."
Yeah. And then we see there's a woman walks through the crowd toward them, right? Mm-hmm. And we just gave a
FF loves tall blonde women with the Bayonetta glasses, like Quistis and Shalula.
Oh my God, Quistis 2.
Yeah, it's Quistis 2, Shalula.
I guess technically it is Quistis 3. That's fair.
Yeah. Quistis 3, Lightning Returns. But yeah, Sazh is just deep in thought, obviously not saying anything, and Vanille gets his attention. He's just like, "Huh?" And, you know, she asks him if he's all right, and he's like, "Oh, yeah." Like,
so I'm assuming he didn't actually say any of this out loud.
No,
like most flashbacks, he just like tried to say.
So then this bodacious blonde is standing there and looking at us.
Get a load of this
I gotta
shit
explain.
my son
She looks like Bayonetta. She's hot. She's got glasses and everything.
And for the listener, whatever, just to be clear, the last thing that happens is when this woman walks up to Sazh and Dodge, she just smiles, and then that's the end of the scene, right? And so we're not really sure how to feel about her right now.
Yeah, Vanille never knowing how to read a room, just says, "Come on, Pops, you've really got to keep it together, okay?" He's just like, "Yeah, I had to relive the most emotionally painful thing I've ever had to go through." Well, one of the most painful things, probably.
Worth noting, because as soon as she knows that he's a dad, I noticed in battle she starts saying "Pops" sometimes.
Oh yeah, that's very cute.
Yeah.
I did hear her calling him that, but I didn't make that connection. But Sazh is kind of just like, great, now I have kids looking out for me, like some dad I am.
Yeah. I love Sazh. He's such a good character.
He's so good.
I love him. Does this feel very like? I mean, besides like the obvious like being a black character who specializes in guns, I do see some other Barrett kind of parallels where like I have a kid waiting for me. At home
Sure.
Kind of vibe.
Sure.
It's a little bit of that.
I'm just glad that it's not literally like a Mr. T clone this time.
Yeah.
He's a lot more charming. I mean, Barrett's charming in his own way, but he's just like a way more kind of like a goofier, kind of looser kind of guy with a little more. I don't know. He seems more dadly than I expect. Like this big guy,
Yeah.
like Barrett is like.
Well, and I don't want to go too crazy about talking because I've already said this, but like just to like drill it home, I really enjoy how like Sazh seems like a full person of a game character. Like, he's a game character, so he's not real, but like he seems like a full person in that like he seems fun to be around. He seems like a good guy. He seems like a nice guy. He also seems incredibly depressed, like just really like to a dangerous point, like you need to check on your friends kind of point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Interesting you'd say that.
Yeah.
Considering the next thing he says in this scene.
Well, yeah. So after the scale beast, we do hop across and come across like a nice little safe clearing. And there's a beautiful waterfall. And even Sazh says like, where's a camera when you need one?
Yeah.
And I took a screenshot for him.
In the Japanese, he says like, I wish I could show this to Dodge.
Oh,
that's like why he wishes.
Oh, yeah, there's a few points like, I know someone who would enjoy this view. I think he said this once or twice too.
Yeah.
When he's like just there's a few times where he's just kind of just taking it all in when you're just running around. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do come up in another cutscene after.
I do like this little area with the waterfall. It's very pleasant.
It's very Chow Garden.
It's very Chow Garden.
Very Dreamcast.
Yeah, the plants and foliage. Foliage.
You
Foliage.
escape Lisa, our little walking library.
Sorry. Much like Sazh, I relate to this. Where just like the sadder I get, the more tired I get.
Yeah. It's
Because he
so
just
good
like
at showing that.
shuts down.
He does. And Vanille's even like, "Yo, have you been sleeping? Like, are you all right? Like,
Yeah,
what's
you
going on?"
look tired. Not enough sleep. And he's like, "Yeah, I guess."
I thought it was gonna be like I thought it was gonna transition to like, oh yeah, like kind of implying like, oh yeah, you kept me up all night crying or whatever.
Yeah. But no, Vanille's just like,
She's just like, "Hey, bro, you look like shit."
yeah, but Vanille's kind of just like flirty about it. She's like, "Oh yeah, like not surprising. Cute girl like me, it's hard to close your eyes, huh?"
She says that as she's like kind of like walking away from him a little bit, like she's kind of just pacing, and she's not looking at him. And I like that she's like, "Must be hard to keep your eyes off a cute girl like me." And when she turns around, he's laid down and is facing the other direction.
Big
and is just
mood.
like, "I need a few minutes."
Yeah, he's like, "I'm gonna lie down for a bit." Like, just trying to work through my trauma without being, like told I'm pervy or whatever.
I mean, also during this whole sequence, like the data logs are talking about how, when this adventure started, he had this kind of resolve, right? Like he was determined to chase after lightning and he had some ulterior motive for going to the Pulse Vestige. And like that, now that all is gone, like it's faded and he's just falling into this like kind of darkness. And we're not sure why. And like,
I'm sure part of it is that the fact that we're just running away is that, like he doesn't really have he doesn't have like it's just opposite of lightning and a hope.
Focus?
I need focus. Like,
Crazy.
He doesn't have a directive that's keeping him motivated and keeping him grounded and keeping him like stable. I do love this, very cute, even though it's kind of bittersweet that like as Sazh lays down, the little chocobo chick kind of emerges and kind of floats over, defying gravity because chicks don't fly.
I would die for this chocobo chick.
Like just kind of floats around and hangs out with Vanille.
Yeah, lands in Vanille's hands, and she says, "Being made a lassie, it's not easy."
I mean, look, even I'm kind of worried. Which is a good line.
Which I don't know if I brought it up on the podcast, but is the chocobo chick a lassie as well?
Get a tiny little brand.
Show us the brand, yeah. Yeah, but she says, but even if we don't know what'll happen, we have to keep our dreams alive. Have something to look forward to,
Yeah, in the Japanese, she says, it's fine to still dream. Like it's it's nice to still have dreams. Like it's I don't know, it's like really
Yeah,
sad.
they're talking
Like,
about dreams, and that's
in
when Sazh
sleep
says-
we can at least think of different ways. It's just so
Do
depressing.
Pulseworks soldiers dream of lassie sheep?
Electric lassie.
I think that plays into too what you were saying earlier, Corey, about like the big theme of this game being this like being funneled toward something and having no choice in doing it, and like literally like, do you have the right to even dream of another scenario? Because this is the only scenario we can do. Like they either will die succeeding or they'll die failing, and there's no in betweens. Like it's just this is the end. And so like, what is a dream to somebody who can never attain it?
Yeah, and all of this talk about dreams has Sazh say, next stop is Nautilus, the city of dreams.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
I do like that Chocobo Chick also flies and just burrows back into
so
Sazh.
yeah, it does.
Brain.
It's a very good.
It just
animation.
almost makes me like think like it was just like
Like a nest.
I'm sure there's some symbolism about like having a like literally something fly out of your head as she's like talking to it, like, just, like as he's sleeping, like his little dream self or something. Like
and
that.
also it's part of Saz's character, right? And it's like a part of his character that ventures out, right? It leaves like the kind of like shelter of his head and goes out to like interact with other people.
Oh,
and, it's like, and it represents some kind of desire.
Yeah, Vanille does fall asleep, and then we kind of get a fade to black, and then it fades back in, and we see Chocobo Chick just jumping on her face, trying to wake her up. And she kind of gets up and looks over, and she's like, oh, like Sazh isn't there, so, she wants to go. And
Doesn't the
and
Chocobo
find
Chick
him.
like tumble, like roll on the grass? Or
She's jumping and he just rolls on the ground. I don't
he's
know.
very
the model,
playful.
like the 3D model, just goes rigid. It just like rolls. It's so funny.
It's so funny. But yeah, the Chocobo Chick kind of flies in the direction of where Sazh is, and we can make our way there. But one little cute thing that happens, there's really nowhere you can go but to Sazh, but there's a path that we can make our way
I tried
towards.
to take it too.
There's a
And
save
the
point there,
Chocobo
so you
Chick-
know I was booking for it. Like,
Before it crashes, hurry.
Literally.
But yeah, Chocobo Chick just kind of floats out and is in front of Vanille, and she's like, you don't want to leave Sazh behind. Like, extremely cute. Like, a good way to be like, no, you have to go back and do this. Like, this check.
and literally flies up in front of her. It's so cute. I love that. I love that little guy.
But she finds Sazh looking out over the water because did we say that like part of this forest, part of this like steppe and cliff is like out against the sea? I don't remember if we said that, but like
Yeah, it's kind of like maybe it's up against a lake or something.
Yeah.
a
beautiful
non-frozen one.
waterfalls. And
He's standing on the precipice of like a cliff, right?
I thought he was just looking over like a water.
it's almost like a dock, but like a naturally formed one, just into a
Okay.
body of water.
Oh, that's right. It's like a little peninsula or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Beautiful.
remember
It's
now.
like a little pond, a little inlet.
but he's he's physically there, but mentally he is 1,000 miles away, right? Like he's
Yeah,
just looking
yeah.
out over it, and
Deep in thought, Vanille calls out to him, and he's like, "Oh, you scared me." Like, clearly, just not really in the moment.
I'm just thinking.
Don't blame yourself. You can't control who FFXIII picks for a focus.
My son Dodge. He was picked. He's a lassie.
He was picked.
Yeah.
and you're
he
like,
was picked.
what? And then we get another flashback.
Thankfully, he says he's present tense. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, as
and
far
we
as
get
he
day
knows.
5 flashback.
you're right.
It's the Euro
We
day. And I
finally
hate
find
it.
I remember being like, "Oh, I'm excited to find out what happens here." I shouldn't have said that. It's extremely depressing.
This looks like another vestige, maybe, that we kind of open up onto. It's just
You never want to find out about a nebulous incident in a Final Fantasy game.
You never find it.
Yeah.
Never.
If you have a Wikipedia page, you never want anything with instant on as like a subheader.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Euro day
Controversy.
gorgeous,
The controversy.
the everyday controversy. Like, oh no.
the thing that we open on, it almost looks like a being in front of a machine that looks almost like a skull. I was super excited though when I saw the name because I was like, "Ooh, this has been name dropped multiple times."
Yeah.
Like we're always hearing about it, and so I'm like, oh, "Euro Day Gorge, this is it. This is the one. This is the incident." And but yeah, that thing that we open up on, where it looks like a machine or a giant skull or something like that, that is the FFXIII Kujata.
Oh, interesting.
Ooh. Well, we don't know that yet.
We
right?
know it as soon as the scene's over because it'll be in
Okay.
the data logs for it.
The thing in the center is the vestige, not the whole.
I think the thing in the center is the FFXIII. I think because when you go to the data log for Kujata, it shows that thing. It's hard to tell. Fal'Cie are like doors and walls and things, and I never know what they are. So
I'm guessing there's spirits that inhabit a thing, and so that is like a thing that holds it, like it is vessel for. So we don't know where the vestige begins.
Yeah, but we hear Sazh talking in the present.
He said he wanted to see a Fal'Cie, so I took him to go on a tour of the Uriday Gorge plant. Thought I'd surprise him with a chocobo chick to take home, but the second I turned my back, into the energy plant he went.
We see something interesting as all of this is happening, where we see Dodge laying there, and we see fucking Vanille.
Vanille? What's Vanille
is
doing
there
here?
With Dad,
with someone else,
with Dodge, and someone else grabs her, which I'm pretty sure we can all assume who it is if we take a close look. It looks like Fang.
It
looks like Fang,
yeah.
which tracks with similar accents and similar fashion. And
the Australians got here,
and it's also going back to the one flashback that we saw with Snow, where someone says, by the vestige, there was two girls in weird clothes.
That's right,
hanging out there.
By the way, did we also talk about the first flashback when we have like Snow running into like literally the first flashback? And what's her name is serving the sausage cocktail.
That's
LeBlanc is serving one to Fang.
Yeah, to Fang.
Yeah, like that's like before we meet Fang, and like I was rewatching the cutscenes, and I was like, holy shit, that was Fang! What the hell? Like, it was so weird.
I think when that happened, I was like, they hovered on that character for too long for it to just be background, and also there were too many polygons. So
the stand user could be anyone.
Pretty much any minor character in Bodum is just wearing a skin suit.
Well, I mean, I knew it was when I first saw it. I was like, oh, that's a character we'll be introduced to. But like I forgot completely about that person until I went back, and I was like, oh shit,
yeah. So
they're not supposed to be there.
So yes,
Sazh, what are they doing at the Uriday Gorge?
Sazh got this chocobo chick for Dodge. He wanted to show him the Fal'Cie. Wanted to, when they got back home, give him the chocobo chick. A really nice thing, very cute, giving his son a pet, and then it's just like everything went awry. His son ran in there and was branded a l'Cie, and we get to see his after Vanille. It looks like her hands are glowing a little bit as well, which is kind of interesting. Or no, actually it's just the brand that's glowing as she's holding his hand.
Yeah, she's holding his hand.
Dodge drops his hand as Sazh is calling for him. Sazh doesn't see Vanille and Fang there, but we see just a glowing brand that looks very different from the ones that we've seen so far.
Yeah, very.
It's very small.
Mm-hmm. I was like,
it's like almost like a teardrop or something, not like
flower
the weird.
Yeah, at first I was like, oh, it's cute. Like the l'Cie brand on a cute kid is a cute different style, and it's like, oh no, there's a reason why it's small and different. And
so like Sazh is running around looking for Dodge, and he's calling out for him. And when I suppose again, we've already said it's Fang is the other character here with Vanille. Once they hear him get close enough, Fang like pulls Vanille away from Dodge, and it's like they leave the scene immediately. Yeah. So Sazh, like you said, Sazh doesn't see them. He does find Dodge, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay? Are you hurt? What happened?"
Listen, innocent people run all the time.
Yeah,
he sees the brand.
And
very,
a bunch
very
of
sad shot too is just Sazh holding this small hand of his son that's branded, and but
he has a special brand that gives him special eyes.
Yeah, he says apparently those Pulse l'Cie had snuck in and tried to attack the Sanctum Fal'Cie. It did the only thing it could and made Dodge a l'Cie to protect it. My son, he got picked by a Sanctum Fal'Cie. He's a hero.
Whoa!
But we're Pulse
so
l'Cie,
grim.
Dodge's enemies. Psycom showed up right after that to take custody of him, and then it was one test after another. Even then, they couldn't figure out his focus. Maybe it was to look for Pulse l'Cie. Maybe it was kill him. Either way, how could a kid that young even stand a chance?
Yeah.
Yeah, as he's mentioning Psycom showing up, that girl, that woman with the glasses shows up. So I'm assuming that she's associated with Psycom.
Her data log does appear right after this, so I don't feel too bad in saying that her name is Jill Nabat, which sounds like a very Star Wars, the Nabat.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm assuming that even though they know that he is a l'Cie, because we saw on day 11 that they were still able to go and I guess celebrate in the show.
Dude, I was thinking about it. That makes his wish so much more devastating when he's like, "Daddy, what did you wish for?" And he's like, "That's my little secret." I was like, "Oh God."
Yeah.
Do they have
I
like?
wish I wasn't fated by the gods to destroy my
Yeah,
son.
that's another thing that I didn't mention, but I noticed in the first cutscene. If you look closely on Daj's hand in the day 12 flashback where they're looking at the fireworks, he does have a little bandage over his hand. But again,
oh, really?
Yeah.
So this must have been like a sanctioned visit or something like that.
Interestingly, it's a.
I was gonna say, in the data logs do explain that.
If you would do the reading homework, you would know.
I did not read enough of the I did not read enough of the data logs this time.
Well, so
Usually
I have
do,
like
but-
I have this like compulsive need to get rid of like notification like numbers.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
whenever it's
yeah.
like, oh, you have something new, I'm just like, fuck. And I have to like I
Yeah.
literally am going through like the like enemy listings. Like,
Yep.
oh god.
The enemies is too.
The
Yeah,
items.
interesting ones are
Every
so
time you get a
boring.
new one of an item, even if you already have the item,
Oh, it's
it
so
has a
miserable.
notification. and I'm
I
like,
hate
"God
that
damn
so
it."
much because I dumped a bunch of the materials into like upgrading weapons that I shouldn't be using in this chapter anyway. And then it's like, oh, I got the thing that I get all the time. I got chipped fangs. And then it's like, new item, chipped fang. I'm like, God
Yeah, I
damn it.
know. It's so frustrating. But it does say in the data logs that Jill Nabat is part of SciComm's research division, and she's in charge of basically like the tests that were done to Dodge afterwards. It also explains that like there haven't been Cocoon Fal'Cie in forever. Like no one's even seen one because they're like,
Yeah.
why would they ever need to exist? Like Pulse Menace has been dealt with or whatever. Like they haven't attacked us since the War of Transgression. So this is kind of new. So Jill's in charge of being like, okay, we need to do tests. And they're trying to help him figure out what his focus is. So at this point, you know, allegedly like they're helping. They're like, okay, we'll try to help your son figure out what the focus is. We'll see if we can get it completed. See if we can get him, keep him from turning into a Seath.
It's SciComm, but obviously the Jill character looks friendly enough from what we can see, highly rendered, so again probably a main character, has her own data log.
In the movie, cares about like, no, you can't kill it. We can learn so much humanity.
Exactly.
It's afraid!
She's got good scientist vibe, and also this SciComm.
Does she have good scientist vibe? That's not the vibe that I got from her, and even in the short clips we see here, like
I was like, she does seem pretty evil science.
she's like, like it's just like, come on.
Listen, I'm just hoping for the best, okay?
A frilly collar in JRPG never bodes well.
Okay, I
True,
do want to
yeah.
say though that the Aride Gorge is like a tourist-oriented power plant. Like it's explained in the data logs that like it's a place that like students do trips and like they encourage people to come in and like learn how like power is generated for Cocoon and stuff. Like
You learn the difference between stalactites and stalagmites.
I mean, so it's very common for people to go in and out. And part of the reason why the incident was like such a difficult thing to keep under wraps is like they had to stop letting people come to this like, you know, basically like science center. Like it's like if, you know, the national like, you know, science center in DC, like just closed because something happened.
It's like bring kindergartners to Black Mesa.
Basically. But it's not, the thing is, it's not Black Mesa, right? It's like just this like,
it's the equivalent of the Cincinnati Science Museum or whatever.
yeah. It's super like, you know, it's like the thing that kids go to. So like when they shut it down, like people are like, oh, what's going on? Like that's why there's all this buzz around it. And, like,
I can't
oh,
believe
why
they
is
shut down the
SciComm
Please
here?
Touch Museum.
They like no, they shut down like they shut down like the Cincinnati Science Museum, and then the fucking military is there, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
I will say this too about the SciComm, and again, just kind of to your point that she does look evil. Like her entire entourage there looks pretty fucking evil. Like there's one guy who's also standing there with the slicked back hair, but all of the other SciComm, like they're not like soldiers. They're dressed more like fascist looking. Like they got like hats that kind of look fashy. Like
Yeah, they look really cool.
not a good look.
No, wrong.
Oh, they look bad. Yeah.
But yeah, so it does say in one of the data logs though that like even though they are testing on him, they're not like keeping Dodge in like a laboratory or something. Like Sazh is being he's being allowed to visit him, and during one of those visits he's like, hey, I bought you a chocobo chick, and Dodge loves it. He's like, oh my god, I love it. And he just hasn't thought of a name for it, and he's like, oh, hey, as soon as we're done with all this stuff, we'll figure it out.
Dodge doesn't
get
just love the chocobo chick. Dodge is particularly obsessed with chocobo. Like he loves chocobos.
He does,
so
yeah.
Dodge is us. He's all of us. You know, he's standing for the audience.
But that's the end of the flashback, but not the end of the cutscene.
Right.
After he was made a lessee, Dodge had some way of sensing things from Pulse. He was the one who found the Pulse Fal'Cie but the kid can't fight. So, that's why I put myself on the train to Purgeville. I figured his focus had to have something to do with destroying that post-Fal'Cie.
But he was thinking like, okay, well, if that's my son's focus and he's too small to do it, I'll go and do it because I know that they're purging everybody and they're purging that vestige too. I'll go get on the train and destroy that thing so my son doesn't have to.
Yeah.
But he also points out that like it may not be that his focus is to destroy the Pulse Fal'Cie.
It may, but maybe it's the Pulse Lassie.
Lassie.
Yeah.
Which is a different kind of problem for Sazh now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he says, yeah, if I was right about his focus, he's probably a crystal already.
Yeah.
And Vanille's looking real upset about it, like for obvious reasons. Well, not obvious because we don't know why she was there, but we can kind of gather from everything going on. Like, yeah, she should feel shitty, presumably.
Yeah. And he says, if that's the case, if it's the case that he needs to take out the Pulse Lassie, it's either he dies or we die. And he like unholsters one of his guns and like slowly starts raising it, and the chocobo chick like flies on top of the gun and puts its little wings out and shakes its head no.
So
like
cute.
Do not solve this way.
Yeah, and he says it's a pickle, all right.
Yeah.
Well, he says the
fucking
bird,
little chocobo chick.
in English he says the bird says no, but like in
the
Japanese
bird says no.
in Japanese he says the bird says live, which I think is really sweet.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. But yeah, we get a shot of Vanille's face, and she's looking real upset now too.
She looks
Sazh
real upset.
Yeah, she's like, "Damn, all my bubbly personality wasn't enough to salvage this beautiful trip through the woods for this sad dad."
My plan of running away from all of our conflicts and asking this guy about whose kid I cursed about his life has really backfired.
Seems like she's got roped in with a lot of people she did not realize that she like had associations with, because if I recall, she mentions in a voiceover Sarah in the past tense, so she's like she knew Sarah as well. And it's rough. There's all this little thing. She's something's going on.
We get into that Final Fantasy type of moment where you're like, oh shit, like the mind blowing is starting.
I know.
I love it.
I do like how they're kind of this does feel very much like a primetime television, like
like a drama
kind of thing, like, oh no, the mystery's unfurling, like
the
drama is like, this person knows that this person doesn't know.
Just
they know.
Get a nice organ diminished chord, just like,
But
I will say though, speaking of in the data logs for Jill, it's funny because like whereas we're like, she seems a little sus, the data log is trying to keep up the illusion, and it's like Jill was very nice to them and definitely lent an ear, and it was a person they could trust. I'm like, okay.
That is an interesting thing, because now that kind of puts into context the data logs in a way that I did not expect them to be, where it's like, okay, so there's a narrative forming from the data logs. Like, who wrote the data logs? Who is Lightning's commanding officer actually based, or is it the data log just writing up a nice thing about him?
The reason that it says that is because that's how Sazh described her. Like, Psycom came in and did all these tests and tried to help. So actually the character descriptions, they get updated as new information comes to light about the characters. And you'll get a new notification that says like, oh, cool, but it's like a character you've already seen, and they've rewritten like a passage from it. And
so like, just a diegetic way of reiterating what you see through cutscenes. Makes sense.
So in the next section, we're introduced to what we were kind of talking about, the weather mechanic. And I didn't understand the weather mechanic at all. I just turned it on, ran through all the enemies to the end of the area, turned it off, and ran all the way back to see if I'd missed anything, and I couldn't tell I missed anything.
Okay, so do you still not understand it?
Different enemies appear, but they're
all that's it.
That's
all
so
it is.
Basically,
it just lets you kind of strategize like what you want to fight. So
like you
there's
see
literally just one enemy you want to avoid.
We should,
and we all know what it is.
None of them are that bad.
The wyverns are like, I think, like a boss level fight. Personally,
fine.
They can fuck you up.
There's an area ahead where I had a choice between a scale beast and a wyvern, and I was like, I'm gonna go scale beast so I can just run around it.
That's true.
There's a part where you can go loop around and go back and then turn it like so. There's a few different parts, but either way, we come across this kind of floating magical orb that looks like blue energy, right?
So of course Vanille touches it immediately.
Yeah.
it pops. What is that? And she touches it.
Why would you do that?
We see in the distance, there's like 5 of the gremlins and some of the like super gremlins whose name I forget. But they're just doing their little dance around a circle thing that's very cute. And as Vanille touches that, they're like, whoa. And it starts getting really overcast, and we hear some rumbles of thunder, and it starts raining. And they say like, oh, a device that makes bad weather. And it starts raining on them, and they're just kind of like, oh no, it's raining now. And then we see some enemies.
I bet these things are FFXIII.
Just popping FFXIII.
Yeah, the weather.
Obliterating a god.
But we see different enemies that we fought on our way up here, which are the mud frogs.
Yeah, they appear.
And it's like,
I mean, it's also this jarring incongruity too of like, oh, we're in this very natural environment, but then you're like just jarringly reminded like, nope, this is all artificial. It's totally controlled by these like weird like gods, and you can just touch it and the weather changes. Like you're in a fucking biodome.
It's also, as you said, Corey, that them introducing this right after the last cutscene really like hammers home. Like I love like it just. I think starting a few episodes ago, I started realizing how much of the game mechanics are like so intentionally like kind of mirroring the tone of like the story that
it's literally my favorite thing when a video game does that. Like it's like my favorite thing in a video game. Much like a soap bubble popping and like everything pouring out, right? Like Vanille touched something delicate and like that tenuous kind of membrane was broken, and now like it's pouring, it's like this downpour of emotions.
Yeah, but we do get a primer about the climate control orbs, and it says that certain indigenous fauna.
We can use some of those here, by the way.
Yes. Certain indigenous fauna exhibit rain-shy behavior, taking cover during storms. However, inducing showers can result in encounters with otherwise elusive hydrophilic wildlife. Again, very wordy, but I like it.
Love it.
So basically, there's 2 different kinds of orbs that you can hit. I think they just, if you pop one, you can always change it right back, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering correctly.
There's no puzzle.
But you can basically, you can just change the weather and choose your own adventure. What enemies do you want to fight? Which ones do you want to avoid? And this is also a good area for farming, because you can kind of just keep respawning enemies over and over again, and once you kind of get good with how to take them down, it's just basically a Christogen point farm.
My Crystarium is lousy with Christogen at this point. Point. I cannot spend it all.
But I think when it's sunny out, we get the gremlins and Flangdergora, and also we get the occasionally the wyverns as well.
Yes.
And then we get when it's raining, we get these mud frogs, which are a real pain in the ass.
Oh my god, they're so annoying.
The mud frogs are things that we could have fought already. Like they were in the first part of the area. There's 2 types of them. There's like the purple ones and the the orange ones. There's the mud frog and the hedge frog. And I think
hedge frog. That's right.
Yeah, I think the Sonic Shadow the Hedgehog. I think the mud frogs, their thing is they can do a move that will call for backup, and
boy, do they use it.
Yeah, so it's pretty much, take down the mud frog first, kill the hedge frogs, which are pretty easy. They're susceptible to fire and stuff. We're very well equipped to take them down. It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal when you have to fight 3 of those motherfuckers, and they just all start calling in hedge frogs, and then you don't want to focus on the hedge frogs because they can just call more. And I did end up getting a game over in a later part of this area because there were 3 mud frogs, and I didn't realize it at first. I'm like, these frog enemies are fine, and then I was like, oh wait, no, this is very not fine.
That fight where there's 3 of them, it goes from 0 to 60 very quickly.
Yeah, you don't even realize you're overwhelmed until
I don't even care.
Yeah, you immediately get game over. And you're like, oh, like out of nowhere.
You go from like being very in charge, where you're like, I got one of these guys on the ropes, it's gonna be fine, and then like a couple seconds later, you're like, Sazh is dead and Vanille's in critical. What happened? Yeah,
I saw a couple of encounters in like the sunny day where it's like one of the scale beasts and some gremlins around it. I'm like, I want nothing to do with that fight because that sounds like it would take me 7 minutes.
I did skip that one. I will say I did not do that one.
So you can change it to sunny or to rainy, and then you can fight a wyvern instead, which like Corey said, I also agree that it seemed like more like a boss encounter. Not the worst thing, but for like just a regular enemy encounter that you have to go through, like they can be pretty rough. So I basically kind of just used the orbs to make it through the area by avoiding whichever enemy would be easier to avoid, and then collecting whatever treasures that
like
were...
the scale beasts and gremlins are kind of easy to run by. Same with Flandergoro. I basically was just trying to do anything but fight a scale beast and a wyvern.
Yeah, same. So
because like these are just going to take a little while.
yeah, so I didn't really do too much farming here, even though it's obviously an option.
The area is also starting to change to be a little less green. I noticed because like when we're in battle, like there's these weird glowing like blue like rocks offshore that are just kind of floating off the water.
Yeah,
it gets a little ominous.
I will say, just a really quick aside, I didn't even think about it until you mentioned it, Corey, but like it kind of is important, I think, for a later area of the game to hit hard enough that you're shown that this is still fake, like this is still man-made, or at least FFXIII made. Even though it's like very natural, there's still that amount of like human control to it. And I think that's a good decision because it helps it stand out from a certain area later.
Cool. I was also going to say, like, it's funny that they specify, like, oh, the scale beasts are really easy to, like, run around if you want to avoid a fight. Like, you can just get caught in a fight and hit retry and then run past them. Like, there's just, like, there's never a problem where you have to fight someone in this game.
But yeah, we get across and go through a tunnel, right?
there's a chest that's guarded by some enemies, and pick your own difficulty which one you want to fight. I think I did the flans because they're easier to take down, and it had an aqua ring in it, and I'm like, okay, well,
ooh, yeah,
that's probably going to be helpful coming up, as everything in this game that they've given you like that is. And when we come up onto an area, it'll be good to have that, especially if you've gone through the Crystarium enough to get 2 accessory slots for both Sazh and Vanille.
Yeah, have you guys noticed that when you use like 2 similar items in the accessory slot, you get sometimes like a bonus effect?
Yes. We were talking about that a little bit. I think when Zwanzig was on, we very, very loosely talked about it. I can't remember. But Zwanzig basically put in our Discord a big list of how it works. And there are basically like every item and weapon, every accessory and weapon in the game is part of a classification that you're never privy to. It never shows you what that is. But there's 32 different types, and equipping equipment or accessories from the same type will cause it to give you a special third like ability. So sometimes you'll equip like two certain pieces of equipment that by themselves do whatever, but when you equip them together, they give you an additional 15% physical resist or whatever.
Pretty sick.
But I think we're getting into a boss fight, yeah?
Yeah. Like every other boss fight, there is some incidental dialogue of I think Sazh says something like, oh, something smells fishy or something.
Yeah, I'm going to find out what.
He hates this damp smell of this place.
Yeah, which is funny because, when they started this area, it was all about smell.
Yeah.
But I think Hope said the same thing before the first boss fight that we talked about in this episode, where he's like, oh, I got a bad feeling about this, or I have a feeling something bad's going to happen. Always a good sign. That's basically the game being like, you should save, maybe. I mean, I guess you have retry, so you don't really need to, but
we basically come upon like a little clearing, but it's like
it's looking a little drier. Like there's a little more kind of dried grass and like glowing element, like orange glows kind of come out of the rocks and stuff. It's definitely, we're starting to come through the other end of this area.
Yeah, and it's a little clearing in between kind of the rocks of the cliffside. We kind of go into the cliffside a little bit.
A little Mushroom Rock Road vibes.
Yeah. And there are 2 sleeping beasts here, right? Which are big bear mammoths with
big old boys,
iron armored faces.
They have really cool designs.
They look like they're made of parts of tree. Like they have like tree logs kind of jutting out of their backs and stuff. They're very hairy looking. They're like a Wookiee combined with an Ent.
Yeah, they kind of look like Torterra from Pokemon, the like final evolved form of
I could see that.
Yeah, kind of like turtle-like, kind of like sort of like behemoth sort of shaped, I guess. But they look real nasty.
They look like they'd be nasty to fight, and it's a good thing that we're able to sneak right past them.
Yeah, exactly.
Fortuitously, they are asleep. Yeah.
Yeah, because Sazh says, uh-oh, that's not good. And Vanille's like, oh, what do we do? And he's like, all right, I got it. We sneak. And then Vanille's like, right. And like they start sneaking, and it's very cute. Also, we get a good look at Vanille's shoes, which are very fashionable.
I like that. I noticed that.
Not saying
too.
that as like a foot guy thing, just saying, oh, those are some dope
I'm
shoes.
saying it as a foot guy thing. We got both.
There you go.
Yeah. both parts of the spectrum
ends.
covered.
these look very of the era.
But yeah, as soon as they
Yeah.
take like 2 steps, these creatures wake up and are
Does
like,
she step on a twig or some shit?
I don't think so. I think
don't-
they just notice.
I think I think it's just like, oh, we can sneak by. They're standing pretty close. Like, I feel like if they went back to the entrance and like sidled along the perimeter of the place, they could have easily made it through. But they're like doing like the cartoon.
I mean, they literally like they're sneaking like Rocky and Bullwinkle, like just like Looney Tunes ass fucking sneaking.
Notably, they're not wearing sneakers for sneaking.
If only we had Fortisol or some sort of Deceptisol or
If
something.
only. Yeah.
Also, the music changes is another really cool, like jazzy track during this.
So good.
Yeah, it's a really good.
Weird choice for a boss fight, but it's like literally one of the best songs I've heard in the soundtrack.
I've gone on record
So
multiple
good.
times in this podcast saying I love any time a boss battle or a series of battles does not use the battle theme and
Yeah, I
uses
love
something
it.
else for effect.
Yeah, big time sucker for that.
Usually we hear like something like Saber's Edge, which is like kind of the more grandiose sounding thing that's not as intense, but this is just like a jaunty, like kind of, it's like big band, but like
What it's called, like it keeps getting worse or something. What's the name?
New national anthem, please.
The song is called "Can't Catch a Break."
So good.
calling back to like when he first brought the Chocobo, like, I can't catch a break. Came with
Yeah.
Chocobo.
Yeah.
So these bosses' names are Enki and Enlil, which are two like Mesopotamian gods. They're actually like the two most important gods in the Mesopotamian like
Interesting.
religion.
And we're just going to destroy them.
Enki is the god, the Sumerian deity of wisdom, intelligence, tricks, and magic, and water. And then Enlil is the god of air and wind and trickery,
Which makes sense.
which makes sense
'Cause-
because of the mechanics of the fight.
Enki is water and Lil is lightning, right?
So they represent the different halves of like, I guess, the environment here, maybe.
Well, I mean, it's a dualistic pantheon, right? It's these two like ruling gods, and one is like wind, air, earth, and storms, and the other is like water and fertility and life, and like, you know, they're playing off each other, and we're playing with like the sun and storm, and like it's chef's kiss, just so good.
It's very good.
I actually I think from a game design perspective, this fight is really good. Because there is a lot of mechanics happening at once. Some that I didn't even realize until I read the Wikipedia, like afterwards. And I was like, was that happening during this fight? It's incredible how many moving parts are in this fight. It's really good.
So where I struggled on the last boss fight, I did not struggle here, but could have very well, if I hadn't learned from what I did last time, would definitely have struggled with it. It's a really, really cool fight. Like the first time, I did game over a couple of times just trying to set up and learn, but again, I don't really feel like game overing is like losing, especially in boss fights, because you gotta
especially in this
learn
game.
and then come in and know what you're doing and feel that empowerment grow. But in the first fight, I just, I was also starting with like the setup paradigm with Synergist and Saboteur, and with Vanille, I was just throwing, 3 ATV bars. I have 3 magics that I can use. I'm doing D-Protect, I'm doing Shell, and I'm doing Poison. And I noticed that one of them got poisoned, so I was like, sick.
Yep.
And then I was like, wait, I should use the Libra scope because it'll give me the information for both of them and the full information. And the first thing I see on the list is susceptible to poison. I'm like, boom, there's my strategy. But another thing that it says is very important, capable of inflicting D-Protect. So if you're not really paying attention to the little icons next to your characters' names, you might not see that you have D-Protect on.
Baby,
and
you got another thing coming.
you're just absolutely always just in the low end of HP, and your screen gets more red and all of that, and it gets very tense. But what I learned by knowing all of this
Meanwhile, the
stuff,
jazz is just fucking going wild. Jazz
it's
is
so
fucking
good. It's so good. But I realized I had learned in the medic thing for Vanille, I learned Asuna, like a classic Final Fantasy spell. Asuna will clear you of D-Protect.
Very nice.
So I was just, anytime I got D-Protected, I was using Asuna.
Actually, I'm curious about the debuffs in this game. So if you have a buff that is on and someone uses a debuff, does it just go back to neutral, or does it go...
I believe
It goes
that's
back to
the case,
neutral,
yeah.
yes. And then you can stack it again to get the 89% damage
Because I'm noticing Enke, like when I'm fighting, he had a lot of buffs on himself, so it's good to kind of try to knock those off.
Yeah, they do have a move where they like roar, and I think that is their Asuna, but it also really buffs them up. So then it's, you have to switch back, do another setup stage of like deprotect.
It does like haste, like a magic boost, and like a fight.
It also gives them an elemental defense boost as well. So like,
it's just really cool. Like it really feels like you have creeped into the lair of these like, like animistic, like pagan deities, and you're like you're trying to kill like a god. It feels like Mononoke Hime, like like you're killing like a forest spirit, and it's like these guys don't fuck around, No, they don't. It's so
they also
cool.
both have very, very strong attacks too. Like they both have like a multi-hit attack for their element, like either a lightning or a water one. And it'll take you from full HP to critical like pretty quickly. Luckily, on the way, like you were saying, Carl, we do get a piece of equipment that will reduce water damage. And we also have the spark rings from before we fought Odin. So you can equip your characters with elemental defense gear that reduces that and pretty well.
Yeah,
and the really crazy thing. And the really, really crazy thing that I didn't realize until I read the wiki was that attack that they use, the multi-hit elemental spell, is area of effect. So if, they're in the middle of Sazh and Vanille, both Sazh and Vanille can get hurt. But it also hurts the other boss.
That's so cool.
And they're weak to each other's element, too. So if, like, Enki uses the multi-hit water spell, it will hit Unleal and do extra damage because Unleal is weak to that element. Cool. And I was like, what? That's amazing. That's crazy.
Really, really cool.
There's such a great like combat system in this game. It's so much fun.
It's so good.
It's so good.
I really, really enjoy it. I know that there's going to be battles where I probably hate the battles, but
yeah, wait till you meet the Huntress.
There's somewhere I do.
The challenge. I like
bitch.
how it makes my brain have to work.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to like having a customizable party if that's ever a thing, because I was like, I kind of like to just kind of give you like, all right, here's the puzzle.
I'll tell you what, Alex.
I am looking forward to that, and I do know that it does happen.
Well, I mean, but eventually your characters just get most of the roles, so you're kind of
eventually
doing
they get all
anyway.
6. Yeah. But I'll tell you what though, by that time, it's a long way away. Let's put that. This game is long, and like it goes a long way before we're able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it basically goes like it gives us every single permutation of like characters together before it trusts us to make our own.
It's great. Look, as Carl was saying very early in this season, like, I am in my 30s. I am happy to just have a game hold my hand and tell me a story and I'll have some fun and like just spoon feed me the mush. I want it. Just give me. I'm paraphrasing.
Especially. It works particularly well for this game too because the battle system is so insane. It's so robust and so like non-intuitive, and like there's a lot of stuff that you kind of just have to experiment with. So I think it is a surprisingly, like with all the negativity surrounding it that people give it, it's a surprisingly well packaged game and works off of the other elements of it in a very, very good way. Much like this boss fight.
I like that, the incentive to do well in the combat system is mostly for bragging rights. Like you don't lose experience points if you have a bad fight. Even if you get 0 stars, there's no penalty.
Actually, it's just there's benefit to getting 0 stars.
Yeah.
You get more items the worse you do.
And if you get 5, then it recharges like, your technique points, which lets you do other cool stuff, but it's totally not essential. Like, I love it. I love that it's like a little thing that if I really try, I can get this little reward, and I get to be told I'm a good boy because I got 5 stars. And like
I do love to be told that.
The game is saying, hey, try to like just blast through these battles as fast as possible. The system is designed for you to do that, and so it's like every fight's a puzzle to like figure out the sequence to get like done as fast as possible. Like it's so good. Ugh,
it's really good. But yeah, how'd you guys do on this fight?
5-star, 4 minutes 17 seconds.
I think I did bad. I got like a 3-star fight on it.
Nice.
I got 3 stars.
Also, like my roommate was like having a loud conversation with his partner while this was going on. It was very stressful because I was just like, I constantly like at low health this whole fight.
I'll tell you what, this battle system is very fun to be playing while streaming, especially if chat's kind of like at this point I had been streaming for a while, so chat just started kind of like more people were showing up and it was kind of going off. And
did you get 420?
And I was just like, I was like, guys,
that's the feeling of this fight.
I can't reach out right now. I'm too hyper focused.
It's like, literally all hands on deck the whole fight.
It's so good. I got 5 stars and battle duration was 6 minutes.
Nice.
This game really punishes you if you like hesitate to choose an option.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta choose an option.
Even choosing Libra, like just navigating down to like techniques and then choosing it and then choosing the thing, like I get attacked while I'm doing that. I'm just like,
like thankfully you can change the battle speed. I think there's maybe 3 options again.
Can you change the battle speed? I had no idea.
I can check her right now.
My speedrunner brain is just like, oh no, I came into this battle and I'm switching between these 2 paradigms a bunch, but they're in inoptimal placement. Like I have to either way, if I go up or down, I have to scroll down like 3 or 4 instead of like what could just be 1. So I'm losing precious frames.
The way I organize my paradigms, because I have like a lot of them, so I have a lot of options, like Curtis was saying, is I have my most aggressive paradigms at the top, and then I move down to like more status oriented stuff, and then it gets increasingly like healing focused towards the bottom. So like I'm usually moving like between pairs and like shifting my like, it's almost like a sliding scale, like between the two.
That makes sense.
I always put my bottom one as my medic or like emergency thing, so that I never think about it. I just know that you can also if shit goes sour, go to the bottom.
You go up and it drops, and then just go and just like, everyone heal. Just we'll regroup. Like just fucking fuck the 5 stars. Let's just survive.
I don't know if this is like funny to anybody else or whatever, but I would just like to point out it was very funny to me that we're recording and I'm looking at all of our beautiful faces, and just in the corner while we're recording the podcast, I just saw a Steam notification saying Alex is playing Final Fantasy 13 now. Man can't stay away from this game.
So yes, you can change battle speed. There's a slower mode if you prefer.
Oh, okay.
Alex is playing his Steam Deck.
Yeah, the Steam Deck can play Final Fantasy 13, so I'm having fun playing it anywhere.
Even on pod.
I'll also say that this game has been like hitting this spot for me. Like, so when I was playing Final Fantasy VII, like when it first came out, like in '97, I would like run home from school and just like be so excited to play, and I would sit and play like as long as I could before I had to like sign off and do my homework. And I used to do that like every day, and I really look forward to like booting the game up and like getting back into the story like every day after school. And like the fall semester just kicked back in, like I'm in grad school right now, and like I get out of class at 4 p.m. and I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to play Final Fantasy 13. Like it feels so good to be back in that like zone.
That's
awesome.
Similar to how I've been too busy to play other than like once a week in the lead up to the podcast, but it has definitely been scratching me where I'm like, God, I just want to fucking play Final Fantasy 13 right now. Like I really want to just jump into it again.
I would say we should call it, but there is a transit station up ahead, so we need to do it.
It's such a small scene,
so I'm gonna let you guys take the wheel.
It's like a ferry port, right? It's like almost like a dock or something. Like
it seems like a very small dock because there doesn't seem to be a town attached to it. And this, by the way, this is right after we defeat the bosses. We immediately walk through this.
They climb through a fence or something, right?
Yeah, we go through a tunnel and we crawl through a fence basically.
Yeah,
and we're like, and then it starts downpouring, and which I wonder if it has anything to do with us just defeating the
I hadn't thought about
of the weather.
That's very interesting.
I wonder if
it like fucks up all the climate on Cocoon. Like we kick in global warming on Cocoon because we killed the like weather gods.
But yeah, Sazh basically says like, okay, to get to Nautilus, we can take one of these boats, and it looks like a dock or for ferries maybe. And I don't know if they're like planning on just stealing a boat, or there's like a ferry going to Nautilus and they're just going to get onto it. Probably a ferry because they kind of stand under one of these little like a subway platform, I guess, or whatever.
Pretty much, yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it starts downpouring, so they run under cover. And there's other people here. We see a small shot of just 2 other, casual people walking by, right?
Yeah, we kind of just, I'm assuming that because we hopped the fence, we didn't have to go through like any customs or buy a ticket or anything.
Right.
So they were able to like go past security and all that shit.
Yeah, we're inside the fair gate. We've hopped the turnstile. We're inside the system. Now we can ride wherever we want.
Psychom's too busy, stopping the turnstile jumpers.
God damn it.
To care about some, let's see on the loose.
Vanille sits down on like a bench, and Sazh is kind of standing like a couple feet away or whatever.
Yeah, that's really also I noticed immediately that like since the beginning of the chapter, these two have been slowly kind of drifting apart, like physically in every interaction. And like, because she's at one end just kind of looking in one direction, and he's just like kind of looking in some other direction and starting to talk to himself, right?
And she kind of like, she doesn't look at him when she says it. She just says, Sazh, do you hate Pulse? Like, do you actually hate Pulse? And he's like, well, of course. Why wouldn't I? Like, if not for Pulse, we wouldn't be in this mess. Like, all of our lives are ruined because of Pulse, you know? And he goes on like a little story. He's kind of like, I didn't always think that way, though. Like, when I was like a person like me, I don't just buy whatever the government's telling us, right? Like, I'll sit there and be like, is that true? Like, is that how things should be? And he's like, I'd always hear these stories about the Pulse Menace, and I'd hear about how terrible it was, and it was even
only a matter
fishy.
of time before they strike, quote unquote.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, it's fishy. Like, why would they be
like, tired old cynics like me? We don't swallow up that tabloid crap.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to do my own research.
I hate drama.
Now that I think about it, all this purge business, it really only happened because Dodge found that Pulse FFXIII.
You're wrong.
Huh?
Don't blame him. It was all...
She's about to like spit something out, and she stops. She can't say it.
Yeah, and he goes, yeah, you're right. It was the scum from Pulse behind it.
Oh God,
Damn.
it cuts so deep.
I wish one of them was here right now.
I wish one of those Springfield kids were here right now.
Let's spray the spray paint right in her mouth. No, not in my mouth.
Is what that kid would
those
say.
Pulse scumbags would say.
So close, I can practically taste it.
But yeah, this is like it's a very powerful scene because like I feel like Vanille is like on the verge. She like wants to tell him because she's like a very open person.
Of course.
She wants to talk to Sazh about this, but she can't. And so she's like,
she wants to clear her name, but obviously this whole situation seems very messy.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a lot to probably unpack because we don't know the whole picture either.
I feel like her questions the whole time to Sazh have been to try to open him up to find a way to be like, hey, this is my deal. But every time it backfires because he's like, no, I hate Pulse. Like,
Yeah.
Even now I hate Pulse. And it's those Pulse scum. If it wasn't for them, then none of this would happen. I'd still have my son. And
I wish
she
those
hears
Pulse
this.
scum would know what they've put me through personally.
Yeah, right. And she's so affected by it that she presumably begins to cry, but before she does, she just runs out into the rain, right?
Yeah. And she's been trembling the past couple minutes too.
I've
trembling
seen
and, like,
things
yeah.
that you sanctum cocoons couldn't possibly imagine.
Beams off the vestige gates.
All those crystals lost like tears in rain.
Yeah, we get a Vanille voiceover though, as it zooms into her cool jelly bracelets that she's wearing because she's super punk rock.
She's very plur.
Yeah, it says, I might as well have tried to stop the rain. I fought the tears, but they still fell. And then she
So
does the Arthur fist.
Yeah, she does do the Arthur fist. And Sazh says, what are you doing? You're getting soaked. And she turns around and just says, I'll be fine. It's just water.
It's only water.
It's only water. And that's the end of the scene.
Yeah.
That's such a good scene.
Ah, bless the rains.
That scene, like, it really hit me so hard. Like, they really earned that emotional beat. You know, I don't know.
I
It
think
came
so.
out of nowhere. It's just, oh God, it really
Yeah,
fucked me
it's
up.
really good. This game's really, really good with that. I also like that we do get a vehicle in the background which just looks like the weird Covenant tank in like Halo 3, I think, is when they introduced those ones.
Oh yeah, it's just scooting across the water.
It's not the Banshee. I think it's called the Wraith.
The Wraith tank, yeah.
I was kind of saying this last time when we had Mutsky on as a guest, right? But like how at least to me, the way I described it was like, oh, it's fun seeing Hope and Lightning becoming stronger together, and then Vanille and Sazh growing apart and becoming tense. And I love this like juxtaposition between like, we just tore through some fucking animal cages and fucked some behemoths up, and like fucking like Lightning and like Hope are both like, hoorah, hoorah, you know?
It's weird, like only 2 episodes ago, like as soon as Hope and Lightning split off, like, oh, I don't want to be hanging out with them. That's going to be a real mess.
Yeah,
I know, and now they seem like the fun group to be
friends. With. Yeah, our fun friends are so much better.
I was explaining to my roommate, like, so we're only hanging out with 2 people in the party right now because one of the party members said, I'm going to overthrow the government and kill God himself. And the rest of the party was like, I don't want to do that. And so that's why we're split right now.
No, thank you.
I'm gonna do the opposite of that. I'm gonna go to Golden Saucer. Basically,
you're like it's also good that we're not all together because one of our other party members, not the god killing one, says he's gonna use the knife that the god killing one gave him to stab another one of the party members. That's actually her brother-in-law, and also now we have this new dynamic where all of this man's suffering is
caused by the cute girl he's
by
hanging
this
out
very
with.
Cute and fun girl who has been trying to be his friend.
Yeah.
Game good.
Boy meets girl. Girl gets cursed by God. God curses man.
Tail is all
God curses friend's son to fight her.
I will say it's doing a good job, I think, in this section for me as well, to show kind of like, you know, we talked about like the idea of like Cocoon being a safe cocoon, right? That humanity can flourish in. Their needs are met. They want for nothing. But this chapter, especially with Sazh and Vanille and Dodge, kind of shows that like humans are still playthings of the Foul Sea. Like this thing that like Lightning was going on, like, I'm not going to have my life determined by a Foul Sea no matter what. Like dead or not, it doesn't matter. I don't do what Foul Sea tell me. Like I'm my own human being. And like we see Sazh and Vanille and Dodge here, right? Being like very instructed, like things that they didn't deserve or want are being instructed and moved by Foul Sea. Like where Dodge was just made a he was made a L'Cie only because the Foul Sea could sense that Pulse was there, and it was like, oh shit, need somebody to defend me. I'm taking the life of this kid real quick to protect me. Even though there may have been no danger, maybe there was, we don't know yet, but like humans are just caught in the crossfire of this greater thing happening.
I also want to revisit this thing you were saying about how like we just got from this like hoorah thing where like Lightning and Hope are kind of growing closer, and the others are growing apart. Like regardless, both parties are kind of like they're having their kind of shells pierced a little bit, right? Like they're becoming vulnerable to each other and sharing their pain. You know, each of them is carrying some kind of like painful kind of secret or memory or something, and they're learning how to like open up to each other because they're these people who are very like isolated, kind of alienated from their own families and societies, and they're kind of forced into this group, and it's not cohesive. When they're in Lake Brescia, they're just like a crowd of bystanders basically that just happen to have magic powers, and one of them is a trained soldier, and so that's what they go with. But now, like, as they're coming into their powers, they're developing, like in the game, they're developing with techniques and stuff. They're also learning how to see each other as like full people, and it's messy, it's prickly, right? Like they're stepping on each other's toes and triggering each other. And even though Sazh and Vanille are kind of, you know, at odds here, we'll see soon that like Sazh feels somewhat, you know, like relieved by having talked to her. And then he's the one that's trying to like help bring her out of the doldrums, right? And like, so there's starting this codependence that's like developing between the two, and it's like really kind of beautiful, but it's painful, like very human.
It's very tragic. It's very like poetic and Shakespearean.
Do really like this that like compared to things like the classic FF7, everyone seems to be like have just the same goal and just moving forward, because I mean that's the kind of game where you just like you pick who's in your party, so it's just like everyone has to have the same goal regardless, and just kind of forms around. But this one, like,
it's literally a DM's nightmare. Like you just, well, my party immediately wants to do different things. Like fuck,
the party split up, and then like the people within those parties are also kind of like splintering off. I'm like, oh no.
Well, I mean, literally, like
and also like we barely know what Snow and Fang
it's
are
so
up to.
fun.
Like,
It's so fun to have like a story that's just like, what if like two of the heroes just literally just want to run fuck off somewhere? Like,
Yeah,
and let's just follow them. Let's see where that goes. Like, that's kind of really brave.
What if we
like a story,
what if we do the refusal of the hero's call and the acceptance of the hero's call at the same time?
Yeah, I do really like that a lot.
Really good. Really, really good.
Yeah. Game good.
Game good.
You know what else good is Corey. Thank you so much for coming on.
Corey's
today.
good.
Corey, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. Just in general, not even when you're on the podcast.
Feelings
just when,
mutual.
You know, we talk.
I love you guys.
And thank you for motivating me to dig out the Japanese script for this game too, because it's been cool. Like when you brought up like the differences in the Nora thing, and so I'm like, I'm just gonna make a nice spreadsheet because we had that for the first season. It's nice to have it for this season.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone listening at home, like anytime I'm playing the game with the Japanese audio and the English subtitles on, just so I don't have to go back. And anytime I'm noticing like kind of an interesting difference, I'm just like dropping something in the Discord about it. So pop into the Discord, like it's cool. We talk about the game and stuff.
Maybe eventually we can also like compile that on a portion of the wiki or something.
Yeah, we can make a data log.
Corey's data log. You gotta come up with a cool name. Like there's Lenora's Garage. There's Up in Arms. You gotta come up with a cool.
I'm excited when we maybe eventually get to like Lightning's Return, because I heard the localization for that is kind of iffy.
Really?
Some people, there's a people in the modding community that I've like, it's actually part of the people I've been talking to get all these like files from. They mention like, oh yeah, we've been like doing like a fan localization of Lightning Returns because they kind of just rushed it seems like.
That's crazy. Imagine a Final Fantasy not having a great localization. That doesn't sound like Final Fantasy.
So I think some of the story apparently got lost maybe in that one.
I also do have something to plug this week, shockingly enough.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah, so I mentioned I was in grad school for planning. I'm actually a working planner now. I'm working at a consultancy.
Woo!
And it's in North Jersey. And we are doing a series of Complete Streets training workshops. If you don't know what Complete Streets are, it's a street that's been designed for all users and all modes of transportation and all abilities. So most of our roads, as you may be aware, are shockingly car-oriented. Almost 90% of the space is for moving vehicles, and like 10% is what everyone else fights over. So it's a method of looking at road design and streets and reallocating space, redesigning them to serve the users that are on that street, not just big trucks and cars and stuff. So we're doing a series of training workshops. It's all New Jersey based. I know this, people listen from outside the state, but if you're in New Jersey, we're doing 3 training workshops, and they're open to the public. They're going to teach you like how Complete Streets work, how design affects road safety, how to get Complete Streets policies passed in your towns, how to move a policy into like an actual construction project, and how to design streets and how to participate in the process. So there's a session on October 13th, Thursday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., October 20th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., and October 27th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And they're going to focus on different regions. So the first one's North Jersey, second one's Central Jersey, the last one's South Jersey. You're welcome to attend anyone you want, but they'll be focusing on those counties. And obviously, I'm sure they'll share a link to the event. But you're welcome to attend. I mean, I'm going to be actually teaching the first one, but everyone that's going to teach them is super qualified. And I'm really excited. Like it's going to be a really cool chance to talk about street design. So everyone's encouraged to attend. And it's virtual, obviously, so you can join in Zoom.
That's awesome.
Nice. Amazing.
Good work, buddy.
Oh, thanks. I'm also moving back to the city this year. My lease is up in November, and so I'll be moving back to New York City by the end of the year.
I was gonna say, now when you say the city,
Yeah.
Not the accursed lands, unfortunately.
not the Vile Peaks.
I'm going to the Vile Peaks. That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're more of a Palom Polum thing where it's just lots of...
How about y'all? What's going on with you guys?
For me, still doing the charity stuff for American Heart Association. I forget when this episode's supposed to come out, but on World Heart Day, I'm going to be doing a big stream, Dark Souls Crowd Control, September 28th. And then also at the towards the end of October. I believe it's the weekend of the 22nd. I forget the specific dates, but Speed Soul's charity marathon is going to be going on. Unfortunately, I won't be able to do too much for it this year. I won't be hosting necessarily because I will be attending Dave and Sarah's wedding from Daycare Days. So it's going to be super fun.
I'll see you there.
I'll see you there. Not if I see you first. Super excited about that. But yeah.
I wasn't invited. I'm just a +1. So.
Nah, he's crashing. Curtis is my +1.
You're like a times 1.5 multiplier.
But swing by my Twitch stream. Ask me about either of them. And I'll be happy to talk more about it.
How about you, Alex?
I got nothing. I'm just waiting on a new fridge.
Well, yeah.
Death to landlords.
Well, I will be playing a show with my band Zaku at the Philadelphia Insectarium and Butterfly Pavilion. That's right. On
no one
September...
ever expects the butterfly.
But that'll be on September 30th with People, Food, and Animal Style. So definitely come out to that. Ooh. It's going to be a good time. We're going to play some good music and see some cool bugs.
I can attest that Zaku shows are extremely fun. So if you're like literally anywhere near the Philly area, you should go. They're like,
Zaku shows rule.
It's always a fucking treat, and the vibe's just so good. Everyone comes in, rolls in hard for them. It's so much
super
fun.
Great time. I will be doing my best to make it to that show.
Oh yeah, we're once again gonna have all of our visuals running off an actual PlayStation.
Hell yeah!
So that's part.
You're gonna play Seinfeld B-roll in the background.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for you.
Special thanks to Batsley Adams because he not only does visuals for Zaku, but helped me extract the Japanese text from this game.
Literal genius. Just critical support to Batsley. We love Batsley.
Also, the Philadelphia Insectarium made news like a few years ago, you may know, because someone stole $40,000 worth of bugs.
Is that where the lanternflies are coming from?
Yeah.
They were using them as the biomaterial to upgrade their weapons.
Look, I've just been trained that the only good bug is a dead bug. I'm doing my part. Are you?
I saw Alex kill one in real life today, but it was a lanternfly. So I
killed 4 today. They're all over New Brunswick. I killed 4 today just walking to class. They're fucking everywhere.
I witnessed a crow eating one, and there's a campaign. I forget the name of the email that you have to send it to. I also sent the most insane sounding email, like, because I didn't proofread it or anything, and I read it back later. I was like, what the fuck was I saying?
You're just becoming a boomer.
No, literally, like, it's scary. But there's been campaigns to be like, if you see anything eating these lanternflies, like, we want to know about it. We want to know what their natural predators are. I saw a crow eat one. It was like an injured crow that my fiance and I were trying to get and see if we could do anything to help. And we saw it like lazily jump because it was hurt and just snatch it out of the air and eat it. And we're like, fuck yeah.
Fucking comrade crow.
Speaking of comrade vibes, big ups for the queen fucking biting it today.
She fulfilled her focus. She's done now.
The email address for if you see something eating the lanternflies is birdsbitingbadbugs@gmail.com.
Oh my god.
Should I read my email? It's insane. It's embarrassingly insane.
Yeah, this episode's gone long enough. Why not?
Yeah. Hello. My name is Carl Germ, and I live in blank, Pennsylvania. Earlier today, my fiance and I noticed a crow in a parking lot see a spotted lanternfly fluttering around near the crow who took flight, and it caught it and ate it.
I was in a parking lot and I saw a crow, and the crow ate the bug, and then the crow looked at me.
I was Ralph Wiggle
the baby looked at you?
But then I do put a comma here, thankfully, because the rest of that was just a run-on. Further solidifying what we already knew, comma, which is that crows are super cool. Please let me know if there's any further information you'd like to know about this sighting that may help your research, and I will be happy to discuss further. Thanks, Carl. So,
if you see something, say something.
They did respond to me and say crows are indeed cool. Thank you for your information.
Aww, that's amazing.
Very kind of them. I read that to my fiance, and she's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" It was a very stressful day that we saw that. There was a lot happening. So.
What's the best way to prepare a lanternfly?
Shove it into your gun blade and increase it. Increase the multiplier.
On that note, Alex, would you like to drop me off on this tiny little platform in front of the vestige so I can get
Would you
on
like to visit the City of Dreams?
Yeah.
So I can get consumed by the mercury of the false sea.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
All these pods will be lost like tears in rain.
This fucking recording is 3 hours long.
Oh my god, dude.
Thank you for coming on, Corey,
Thank you for
for
having
this
me.
voluptuous episode.
Always bringing the luxury.
Maybe a two-parter. Who knows?
You wouldn't do that to me again, would you?
Thank you, Masashi Amauzu, as well. Keep on making them grooves. While you're listening to that, you can leave us a review on Spotify or iTunes. You can call us at 530-MATERIA. You can also text us. You can find us at every FNFF on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and hop on our Discord for some good Corey and Zwanzig knowledge. I'm sorry again for this episode being 3 hours long, but the bird says podcast.
Oh, that's so good.
So long.